either way, the government will have to get money to make and just to fill the operations of the country. One, we have to pay our debts. Two, all the operations in the country must run. It's a situation of Peter, take from Peter and pay Paul.
Yeah.
All right, take from Peter and pay Paul.
And a continuous cycle of the same.
It's just a continuous cycle. And now, just the other day, we read a story where the government said that out of every 100 shillings that you will spend, 70 shillings will go to service the debts. 30 shillings will now go for all the local operations in the country. So you can imagine out of 100 shillings, 70 shillings is used to pay debts, which means our debt ceiling is so high. And now the government, either way, will have to get that money to service the loans. How are we going to get that money? It's about you. One, you'll have to go deeper into your pocket. That is expected. And once that affects the common mwananchi, then the rate of taxation will definitely go high. People had their issues of, the price of bread, due to shoot up. It's just that. There is no any other way that the government can get money apart or without taxing you. The VAT will have to be affected. And you know what? The common mwananchi will still have to cry. But hey, we must have things right and things running.
And I'd really love to know from you as a Kenyan, because there are so many, I can tell you for sure, there's so many expectations from Kenya. Just the way I was saying earlier, a good number of Kenyans are really expecting that this budget to take a form of bottom-up. In essence, those issues that are really affecting Kenyans, at least to get more money in terms of that. There's so many issues in terms of health as a whole, in terms of infrastructure.
Most of them are devolved, yes.
Yes. So for you as a person, which sector would you really feel, I feel like this place would really get more monies?
With no specific focus on any, I think the issue of just have money in circulation is just good enough. All right, just good enough. The common mwananchi should want to feel cushioned from the pangs of high taxation. Chances of, the normal bread and milk, that's the common mwananchi's food, all right? That's what we need to get to hear and what to see. We need to feel that the price of bread is lowered from over the 50 shillings mark, somewhere downwards. But that is most likely not to happen. The government will instead increase levies and taxations and VATs on, the essential commodities, which they know that we cannot survive without. For example, fuel. Right now, a liter of petrol is retailing at 127 shillings. And for them to get that money, it will even have to go up to 130. So, Ukuri, we're waiting for you to tell us, that's the CS for Treasury, how the things are going to be in Parliament in the afternoon today.
So it is what it is.
It is what it is.
All right, let's come to COVID-19 before we get to see how the front page of the Standard looks like, Victor.
Yes.
This is in regards to the restriction that are set to hit Kenya and Uganda traders, where businesses on the Kenya-Uganda borders are now bracing themselves for disruptions due to travel restrictions announced by President Yoweri Museveni, at least to stop the rapid spread of COVID-19. Clearly just showing that, COVID is still a very, very big issue in different countries. So while the effect of the ban on movement is still to be felt, traders in Busia and Malaba fear the flow of goods will be disrupted in between these two countries. And these traders in Busia and Malaba get their maize, beans, bananas, and eggs from across the border. A specific story here from, this is just Mrs. Christine Monchari, who's a Malaba trader, said that these restrictions will hit business hard. And Ugandans come to buy soap, toothpaste, cooking oil, and other basic items in Kenya. That is what she says. And Busia County Commissioner, that is John Koriro, also said that people were being allowed to cross to Uganda yesterday as long as they observe the COVID-19 guidelines. So it means that there are really heavy restrictions in between the borders just to curb the adverse effects of COVID-19. So in as much as this is being put in place, it just means that it will again affect business in between these two countries because of those two restrictions. which again just brings the whole question of health versus the economy, or health versus the business. So which way? In this particular case, it looks like we first have to focus on health before we can actually take a look at how business will be doing all together. All
right. And before I cross over to the Standard, let's talk about some education matters here briefly. And now, crackdown looms on ill-equipped schools. Education CS George Magoha on that is Wednesday. Yesterday hinted at a possible crackdown on schools that do not meet registration standards. Now, the CS said that some schools are operating without due process, with some having no licenses. He said that it's now time to be bold and crack the whip on some of the schools and institutions with inadequate land, but borders others with playfields. However, survive the crackdown. Magoha said that if some of these schools will be found, then some of them will be locked, will be closed down, that is, and students will be forced to be transferred to alternative institutions of learning. All right. Can we talk about business now? Mumias Sugar Insolvent says the firm's receiver manager, KCB Group, appointed PV Ramana Rao to run the company until it recovers 3 billion shillings. This is a debate that has been happening as well over the couple of days, and even down there in Mumias, we saw several leaders trying to raise concern over the issue of Mumias, and Mumias Sugar will now require more funds even after its sale to offset debts owed to lenders and suppliers. The receiver manager, Rao, has said in a detailed response to the Senate Committee on Agriculture, in response to questions raised by Kakamega Senator, that is Cleophas Malala, on planned leasing of the miller. Rao said that the firm's liabilities are almost twice its asset value. And he said that Centenary Values Limited placed the market value of Mumias assets at 18.4 billion shillings and for sale value assets at 13.8 billion shillings. So it's been an issue that has been raging down there, and the issue of ownership and the lease is now taking shape. And now they say that they need to know the truth contained in the document of lease. All right. At this point, we need to take a break, Doreen. And when we come back, we are still going to give you more what's happening on the headlines on our newspaper. So, sip your coffee, take a break. We're also taking a break. We'll be right back.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shoni yangu. Hii pikipiki ni, unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako, chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na Quick Bid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill, kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account, weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bid yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano, TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bid yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bid ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. Quick Bid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Next on.
Mara ya mwisho weko na Nancy ilikuwa wapi?
I know they'll be coming for me soon.
Sichukue ndege moja uende South Africa ukajifishage huko.
I have built too much here in Kenya to just walk away.
Kusikiliza Kenya Tiffany walikuwa na piana na Eriko hapa nje nikasindo.
Nani alikuwa amekutuma?
Wayu ni kuongea ukweli tu ukweli. Sasa nani alikuwa amekutuma? Wewe. Mlikuwa mnapia nini?
Na nani?
Sina Tiffany.
Mbona?
Nataka nijue kama niko kasi.
Someone you can leave. I'm sure Wayuni will fill you in.
Oh.
Maji mimi hata niliashaga obea na udaku. Siku hizi mimi nikiongeleshwa na mtu kitu inaisiaga hapo hapo.
FM Ilaiska Umada.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Welcome back. You're still watching In the Headlines on KBC Channel 1. My name is Victor Lo, and of course, I'm with Doreen Arrange.
I see what you did there. I choose peace.
Doreen Arrange. Somebody say that if orange is orange, why don't you say arrange?
I've decided to choose peace.
Choose peace. Okay, with Doreen Arrange here. Still taking a look at some of the stories making the headlines. Now let me flip to the Standard. Maraga, we are on road to anarchy. That is, according to former Chief Justice David Maraga, we are on road to anarchy. And he says, and I quote, it is the role of Parliament to take steps to remove him, that is President Uhuru Kenyatta, if he violates the Constitution. If these acts are allowed to continue, we are descending into a banana republic. And he continues to say, and I quote, if we continue to operate like this, we will not have the judiciary. Judges will be making decisions based on what executive want. And finally, I quote him as well, saying that when a situation gets bad, people need to be frank and bold, because if we allow him, that is President Kenyatta, to continue, it will bring more problems. That story continues in the Standard. All right, eyes on Yatani and his magic briefcase. Treasury CS has a delicate balancing act. He must find a way to settle the country's ballooning debt without increasing taxes, as well as take care of rising wages, pensions, and counties' expenditures. That is the big story today, and of course, that is going to be happening in Parliament later in the afternoon, all right? Still on that, you can also continue to take a look at that story by David Maraga on what the president has to say. All right, so the 3.63, the total budget, 3.63 trillion shillings, up from 2.84 trillion shillings in 2020-2021. All right, with the budget deficit of 1.6 trillion shillings. All right, total loans and grants, 1.6 trillion shillings, and that is going to be the total revenue that is projected is 2.04 trillion shillings from taxes and ministerial fees. And that story is also fleshed out completely in details on the Standard. MPs goes for Uhuru's flagship projects in changes. And just after that, in the Star, I was said that MPs were raising concerns that the ministries that have pending projects should have their budget cut. How that is going to play out later in the day, we will wait to see how that will go. So just to give you a snippet of where the money will go. We have got national and county governments. We have got top 5 ministries allocations. We have got top 5 allocations to independent offices and commissions. Let me start with the national and county government. We have got the executive that is set to get 1.88 trillion shillings. We have got parliament, 37.88 billion shillings. We have got judiciary, 17.92 billion shillings. We have got consolidated fund services, that is 1.33 billion shillings, and county governments, 410 billion shillings. Okay, the big four agenda, we have got food security to get 54.2 billion shillings, universal healthcare, 45.6 billion shillings, manufacturing, 18.5 billion shillings, and affordable housing, 14.9 billion shillings. So, of course, the top 5 ministries will be the National Treasury, Ministry of Health, Ministry of Defense, Ministry of Water and Sanitation and Irrigation, and lastly, State Department of Energy getting their fair share. We will get the details later on in the afternoon during the budget reading. Doreen, what do you have?
All right. Now, remember yesterday when you told us about the story of physical education,
right,
and how it is important, and also what the Education Cabinet Secretary George Magoha, did yesterday in regards to that. That particular article also made its way on the PD this morning, where the Education CS also yesterday actually launched the Kenya's first physical education and sports policy for a basic education. Speaking of the KICD, revealed that the unique policy is aligned to the new system that provides arts and sports as one of the major career pathway which young people can venture into. And why actually I was reading this story today in as much as it was in the papers yesterday is because of that last bit.
Yes.
That the major reason as to why he also reintroduced this is because the arts, the sports is also one of those major career pathways which young people can venture into. And Vicky realized that not everyone can be good in books and what is taught in class.
Yeah.
I mean, we are diverse human beings. You could be good in math. I could be good in Swahili.
And science and all that, yes.
Yeah.
Right.
Someone else could be good in sports, playing handball, football here and there. So having that diversity is important. Again, reintroducing this kind of physical education just goes to show you that where your strength lies is where you actually focus on.
That reminds me. What was your favorite sport? Today is a TBT, by the way. What was your...
What do you mean, what was my favorite sport?
What was your favorite sport, either in high school campus or in primary school?
Let me tell you, I was actually having this conversation with Regina on Monday, and I was telling her, I was one of those people where sports for me was just as a result of going for funkies. As in functions, not artists. So I was a sports person that I have to play handball, CG volleyball. Not quite. For me, my keen interest in high school was mostly drama. I enjoyed drama a lot in a lot of the science congress.
Now I see.
So, you see, because of that, I mean, you also realize that when you grow, you continue growing older, you still continue to channel your energies there in, in matters drama. You really want to produce theater plays. You want to do this and that because that is where your interest was. Someone who's interested in volleyball, they still want to do that even on the side, regardless of what they might be doing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Mine was one.
Which
drama.
One? Clearly.
Drama and music festival.
Yeah.
I played hockey, number 5. I was a goalkeeper as well. And I also did handball.
Do you still do them even up till now?
One until now. That is drama. And
you still do drama?
Oh, yes. Yes.
Should I tell our viewers what you do?
No. Yes, I do. And by the media and arts, you can never divorce the two.
Yeah.
All right? Media and arts, you can't divorce the two. So...
media is actually an art.
Media is an art. You have to draw one thing, completely in a different shape, texture, give it a different angle. So it's creativity. Yeah, it's creativity. So here we are.
Yeah, so it's actually good to introduce PE, where your strengths are.
Kids must play. Come on.
You
kids
can't just be in class reading all through and through.
Bana, akili itapasuka. All right?
All right.
Okay.
So let's come to what... the state is being urged, and this is to ensure prudent use of loans, which is what the Anglican Archbishop, that is Jackson Olesepit, has now called on the government to employ a cautious approach in securing loans, and this is to avert burdening future generations through a surging debt load. Remember, like we mentioned earlier, that right now we stand at a 7.33 trillion debt as a country. Olesepit also said the continuous borrowing threatens to create a situation where the country may not be able to service the loans in good time. He further on continue to say that we need to ensure that we do not borrow beyond our capabilities to repay. So in other words, saying that it may not really be bad to borrow, because again, also what we know is that no country has quite developed without borrowing, but the issue is that we just do not, we need not to borrow beyond what we need to pay. And the Archbishop also further called on the government to consider cushioning businesses post-COVID by reducing the cost of fuel in the 2021-2022 budget. He also observed that a larger majority of businesses depend on the commodity for their daily operation, which is actually what we've been saying all through and through. I mean, at least in this first half of the year, we've really seen a spike in fuel prices, which in turn has resulted to the cost of goods and products going up, which in turn has resulted to the cost of living going up. So it's actually a ripple effect, and this is what the Archbishop is just calling on the government to do. So even as we await for this budget reading, these are just some of the things that really Kenyans from all walks of life are perhaps expecting the government to address there. Also, there's one interesting article here that I'll just like to run you through. This in regards to the issue of headache. Perhaps you might have come across this as a person, anytime you're experiencing headache as an adult or even as a young, even for the youngings or the young ones, there's always that idea of, it's just headache, I'll just take headaches or Panadol, but this could actually be more than just a mild headache. And this is what experts are saying, that the persistent headache, convulsions, mainly in children, and a blurring vision should not be taken lightly, as this could be linked to a disorder in the brain. Now, this is what experts in the country are warning against, and already it has emerged that 5 to 10% of all tumors have been identified in Kenya, and most of them come for diagnosis and treatment when the condition has spread rapidly in the body. So it just means coming for treatment when it is it has gone too much far. And as World Brain Tumor Day was marked yesterday, the brain surgeons cautioned persons whose intake of painkillers to cure such relentless headaches in vain to quickly conduct an MRI of the brain. Dr. Ahmed, who's a clinical oncologist at KNH, was more elaborate, cautioning parents to closely observe their children's behavior, indicating that brain tumors are common, especially among minors, saying that despite brain tumors having no specific symptoms, parents should be keen to identify personality changes, that is in toddlers or in children's there, and this include persistent nausea, vomiting, visual changes, and even those constant cries at night, saying that this should not just be taken lightly. Vic, we were having this conversation earlier, saying that sometimes it could be, perhaps a child is eaten, enda tu cheze. You tell a child, enda tu cheze, they're not even taking water, and we take these things lightly. So when they come with a headache, we say, it's just a headache, or you've played too much, so take Panadol, take headaches. But you see now what experts are saying is that this is actually more than what we think. Absolutely, and health is wealth, and as you've correctly put it, most kids after eating unasikia anakuambia haya endo kimbia huko endo cheze huko endo nawe mkono endo cheze, you subject this kid or this child into a health kind of situation that even you as a parent might not be aware of. When you don't take enough water, first of all, you feel like you have got some kind of a headache. It's just that. You feel fatigued, you feel exhausted, but just take a glass or two of water, your body will come back to life. And with health experts now saying that it could be tumor, I think it now calls for more parents, all parents out there, to be more keen, because kids can't talk. True.
So it's upon you as a parent to make sure that you study your kid pretty well, have their health records at your fingertips so that you know their progress each and every step of the way. It may not be quite, visible, but some of these things can be detected quite early enough so that, we don't get into that situation where we find ourselves in a very tight spot on something that could have been easily avoided. Just like taking water.
Yeah.
Yeah. Kitambo, I used to see my auntie giving one of my nephews and nieces anachukua ile, how do you call it? The lemon leaves, machungwa. Anaeka kwa maji, chemsha, alafu anapata na spoon kale kadogo. Yes. Right now the lady is a big cold vial. Auntie Marissa, I used to see you doing that. Yeah.
And it would help the nephews.
Exactly. Yeah. That's why she's an adult. Okay.
All right.
So, now that's issue of CS Magoha having PE. Now this is what it entails. Okay. And I think this is going to be very much important for teachers and parents as well. Now, the CS says that CBC is anchored on arts and sports science, social sciences, and science, technical, engineering, and mathematics. Now, this move seeks to make sports and arts a career profession and taught, assessed, and recognized through a professionally guided approach. So, although PE, that is physical education, has been in Kenya for quite some time, its execution has been on a pastime basis, with teachers treating it, casually. But now, the launch of the first ever physical education policy framework not only makes it mandatory for its teaching and learning, it also makes arts and sports a career pathway acquired through a clearly defined and structured learning system. That is a good progress, Doreen. We can never overemphasize on that.
Yeah.
It's just that, we have got our athletes. Let's just take an example, who are actually earning their living through sports. So why don't you just emulate what they're doing? I mean, you just make sure that you have your talent well in place and you're good to go. Not everybody will have to make it, into universities and have A's, straight A's.
Exactly.
Use your talent. In fact, if there is one thing that God gave every person, is that talent. That unique gift.
And it depends on how you choose to use it and how you choose to maximize on it.
There you have it. Okay.
All right, so let's come back to the Daily Nation. This in regards to some of the skills that Kenyans have perhaps learned during this time of COVID-19. Remember that we are still living in this pandemic, and just as most will say, every dark cloud has a silver lining. Let me run you through an interesting story of a young person and how they really just chose to maximize during this period and try to make sure they really learn new skills, which was really of help. Just saying that since the first case of COVID-19 was reported in the country, the government took drastic measures to curb its spread. Of course, this is alluding to the fact of that there was lockdowns, restrictions of movements here and there, curfews, and all of that. But one of them was the closure of all learning institutions, which obviously affected learners negatively. And the young lady was actually a Kenyan Certificate of Primary Education candidate, that is a KCP, and like many of her classmates, she said, she had no clue about how she would undertake her studies while stuck at home. So while some were lucky to have online classes during the long holidays, hundreds of thousands of pupils were idle for months, and this was witnessed during that 8-month break in which students were at home. And however, as the old saying goes, every dark cloud has a silver lining. During the long holidays, she said, she discussed with the parents on how to manage time at home because she could not read all the time. And she just further on continues, she says that, to be honest, that kind of discussion together with the mom and the dad was really, really helpful because she came to learn that life is not all about studying, which is part of just what we are saying, that it's good to study, it's good to go to school, but sometimes it's just life beyond what you can read in the books. And she realized that life skills are also key to success in the modern world. Skills such as cooking, cleaning the house, doing the laundry, washing parents' cars, and many other chores helped her grow to become responsible and a hardworking person. And one of the new skills she had to learn was actually to bake. And she says that this saved the family money because they didn't have to buy birthday cakes, they didn't have to buy Christmas cakes, or they didn't even have to buy bread because she would bake. I just read that part of bread, and I remembered Ray again when she said that she really has channeled her energies to cooking mandas. This is why Victor would call her kendas all the time, because it's just one of the skills that a good number of Kenyans are learning. You know, we're talking about of how times are difficult.
Yeah.
We may not get to a point where we can afford all the basic needs the way we used to afford during the normal time. So what do you resort to? Learning new skills that can really be of help to you and even to your family as a whole. I wonder what you have been learning during this time of COVID, Victor. Which skill have you got it? I'm a too fiti.
No. You have to learn new skills. You have to learn to adjust to the new norm and just to see how life tosses us around.
Yeah.
Okay. Yesterday, President Uhuru Kenyatta said 5,000 illegal firearms ablaze, and now the government will not tolerate leaders who fuel inter-clan conflicts and blame it on terrorism. President Kenyatta said, and he warned yesterday. Now, President Kenyatta spoke at the Regional Traffic Police Training Center in Ngong, that's in Kajiado County, where he presided over the banning of 5,144 illegal firearms, as well as obsolete state-owned small arms and light weapons. Now, the head of state underlined the importance of peaceful resolution of conflicts through dialogue, saying that the government was more than happy to engage all Kenyan citizens in such endeavors. So that is that, and now the government says that should we have kind of conflict, the only way to go about is to have a dialogue. Now, huduma number for fish. Now, a state agency has begun identifying fish species in the Indian Ocean through a scientific exercise synonymous with huduma number. Okay. The exercise, known as Fish DNA Barcode, will enable the country to trace its fish and fish products. It's also being conducted by the Kenya Marine and Fisheries Research Institute. Scientists said that the exercise will also remove doubts about the quality of seafood sold to consumers following rising concerns over imports from China and other Asian countries. Okay. Huduma number for fish? It's crazy. All right. The Tekra case is still on, and Lali has been summoned again to appear in Tekra inquest. Lamu-based boat operator Omar Lali again to appear in court to testify. He failed rather to appear in court to testify in the inquest of his late girlfriend Tekra Muigai. This was the third time Lali failed to appear in the inquest into the death of the Keroche Brewery's heiress. Tekra died in May last year as a result of injuries she sustained after allegedly falling on the stairs in an apartment they were sharing in Lamu. So that is the story there. And now MPs are urging CS Magoha to go slow on sending pupils home over school fees. That is by MP, that is Mavoko, MP Patrick Makau, who has urged Education CS Judge Magoha to ensure that children are not sent away from learning institutions to just to get the school fees. They say that students should be allowed to be in school, and parents should also be given that flexible mode of payment to clear the fees arrears. As he says that times are tough, and that is it. Over 7,000 students received bursaries worth 41 million shillings this academic year. So that's what's happening there. All right.
There's one viewer, that is Kevin. He says that Victor with drama, he is a drama king. When you're asking what it is that in high school would interest you as a person, and Victor said that him was drama and music fest. He says that you're a drama king. You agree?
Okay.
Or nothing as a comeback?
King, you can call me king.
But not the drama bit. Should have left out the drama bit. That's what you say.
No, you can combine the two.
So wako tu sawa.
Yes. Okay, you can put drama on this end and king on that
the other side.
So, all right. Yeah, drama is life. Drama is life. Okay. Even you, Doreen, I know you. I saw you somewhere.
And you can attest to that.
Yes, I saw you somewhere.
Okay, we'll not go into that. Anyway, let's come back to this article, and this is regards to border riders. Over time, there's been a lot of conversation rather, in regards to border riders and the accidents perhaps being caused therein. And this article just highlights that of late, cases of border accidents have been on the rise, and sadly, the riders are aware of the traffic rules but opt to ignore them and follow their own ways. They are the same people who will carry excess passengers and still riot along the busy highway, mourning one of their own who has perhaps died due to his recklessness. Most of these accidents are caused by drunk border riders who not only risk their lives but also of other millions of riders on the motorcycles. It is high time riders behaved, followed traffic rules, and ferried people with sobriety. The other time there was an initiative to just train border riders on how they need to be navigating their ways in between the roads, and this has also been witnessed quite a number of times, especially if you're on the busy highways. You will never miss border riders just trying to navigate in between especially when there's heavy kind of traffic. And this particular article just trying to highlight how detrimental that can be and how important it is for border riders to just follow the rules, the traffic rules, at least for their own safety and for the safety of the passengers that they carry. Now, protect languages for knowledge, whereby the loss of linguistic diversity, and this is actually in Kenya, may lead to disappearance of old age remedies unknown to science. The knowledge of medicinal plants is at risk of disappearing as human languages become extinct. The loss of languages will have more critical repercussions to the extinction of traditional knowledge about medicinal plants than the loss of plants themselves. The governmental programs to stimulate the transmission of languages, bilingual schooling, and interest in cultural heritage would help communities to retain linguistic diversity. But the medicinal aspect is just one of the many reasons to promote the conservation and diversity of languages in the world. Just basically just article trying to highlight that in as much as we may borrow a lot from the West, or in as much as we may want to take in new ideas, but we should not forget our own culture. Which this reminds me of, for us as Africans, I mean, there are things that just makes us Africans. There's a way in which we do things, or there's a way in which we may dress, there's a way in which we may talk. We just know this is actually an African, specifically even a Kenyan. But the way in which we borrow a lot from the West, just going by this article, is, do you feel like this what is also making us just lose our culture as Africans?
Because, first of all, let me ask you, what makes you a Kenyan? Or an African, for that matter?
What makes me a Kenyan? Yeah. I think what makes me, for me as a person, is the kind of food.
I knew.
Why are you saying you knew?
I knew it.
No, but for real, it's the kind of food. I mean, you realize by the actually even over time, you know, when you get to watch most of these documentaries here and there, where you know, perhaps if you can mention African documentaries, you'll hear a good number of Africans saying that when we were in London, or when we were in this place, what made me know this person was an African was either the kind of food they were eating, or how they were speaking, or even how they were walking,
or even the way they were behaving.
Even the way you're just behaving, you know, there's just some, like, because of food just makes you know this must be an African. What makes you feel as an African?
Not an African person. Let me just narrow it down to be
a Kenyan.
A Kenyan will start a statement by saying, "Me, I."
And it sounds very correct.
And it's very correct. Me, I know. Me, I can't do that.
Imagine me, I think it's wrong.
Yeah, you get that? Imagine I think me, I think. You cannot say me and I. It's a repetition.
Yeah.
Just say, I know.
But for us, it sounds very
It's
correct.
very correct. And the loudness of a Kenyan, unafika mahali, for you to just to be calm, you know, you get into a restaurant, you just want to have probably your ugali, unasikia mtu anagonga, wewe, ndani yako wapi? Oya, hey, relax.
Ai, mbona mtu afiki?
Wewe, toa hii kikombe hapa bwana, nipatie ingine. Relax. That is a Kenyan for you, and it's quite normal.
Yeah.
If you don't make such a noise wherever you are, you feel like
something is missing, or something is wrong.
You have to announce your arrival.
You know, and actually it's unlike what the West will do, you know, because for them they're just composed in their own nature. When they get to a place, they're like, you know, very composed, ready to ask for things. But for us as Africans, you have to know I got into this place.
Hey, Wakenya, we are special. That reminds me, in some states in the United States, you will go to a particular place and find it's like a village of Kenyans. You go across the road, unasikia Wajaluo speaking their mother tongue there. Get across the other side, unasikia our friends from Kisii are also. It's just a village of Kenyans in the United States. So Kenyans, we are special, and you know what? That is who we are. That is who we are.
That is what defines us.
All right, Doreen, it's time to call it a wrap on the news preview, and just to remind you that in the next hour, we will be speaking with CPA David Kingo, who is an experienced internal auditor and a consultant. We are going to be discussing issues budget today, and just to get him, you know, cracking them into bits so that we can get to understand more on what to expect. And then later on, we'll also be joined by Laikipia Governor, that is Honorable Nderitu Murithi, also going to talk to us on matters budget. Remember, he's also the chair of the Finance, Planning and Economic Affairs in the Council of Governors. Doreen?
All right, and still on the same breath, when it comes to matters budget, this is actually where I leave you, Victor, here in studio, and I will go to speak to Kenyans, because in as much as we want to get that intellectual perspective and try to see how these numbers are broken down, because again, that is always a problem with Kenyans, just trying to understand the numbers. You also want to hear what are Kenyans' expectations. The budget is going to be read this afternoon, but as a Kenyan, as a common mwananchi, what exactly are you expecting when it comes to the issue of taxes, debt, cost of living? What exactly would you want the government to address in regards to that? That is what we'll be looking at later on. But for now, it's time for that break. Yeah?
Oh, yes. We'll be right back. Okay. Stick around.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Ukoshoni yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, uwekezaji katika sekta ya kilimo unaendelea kuisaidia nchi hii kuafikia malengo yake ya uzalishaji chakula cha kutosha. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
serikali walipokuja kuintroduce kazi ya visima, tukakuwa nafuu kwa sababu hata mifugo yetu wamepata maji. Tukarudi tena tukaintroduciwa kazi ya ukulima na maji.
Mimi nimekuja nimefanya kazi hapa shambani kwa sababu mmetusaidia nipate pesa, mtoto arudi shuleni kwa sababu nimefaidika kwa hizi mashamba.
Wenzetu wametuletea elimu, kumbe ardhi inaweza toa hata ng'ombe mingi kushinda hata ile tulikuwa tunafuga.
Alhamisi, saa 2:30 jioni kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1.
Next on.
Mimi kwanza nina kizunguzungu, niweke tu chai kwanza.
Kizunguzungu ishindwe hapa, tuzi kizunguzungu. Ngoja kidogo mwanaume, kaa hapo. Ngoja nikusavu hata kama ndazi ngapi?
Lete zote.
Ati zote. Leteni pesa kwanza. Mtoe pesa kwanza.
Lete zote. Unajua sisi na kina nani? Nituulize hiyo swali.
Haya. Chini hapo. Unataka tu tunarudi hapa kwa mara ngapi?
Leo ndio nilikuwa najaribu yani.
Unajaribu nini? Ongea haraka.
Hebu ongea haraka. Nilikuwa najaribu leo ya mwisho.
Kaa chini. Ni mara ngapi tutakuwa tunakuja tunakuambia ufunge biashara yako hapa? Kaa chini.
Kaa chini madam.
Huo ni ungwana.
My name is Absalom Aswani. I'm a navigator to Evans KBC. We sit in an Evo 10 that is branded under Green Life. We're actually sponsored by Green Life Motorsport as our team. And we will be happening in the WRC Safari Rally of 2021. Nataka kuwakaribisha nyinyi wote to come and cheer our local team. This is the first time in 18 years. I think we are having proper indigenous Kenyans doing these events in their hordes, rather than those years when there were few dotted pictures here and there. But this time round, we used to watch this on KBC. Now, it's here and live. Please come in your hordes, could you support Green Life, and stand with us as you see us through all the way to the podium, ahead of some of those foreigners. Tutawachapia sleeping warrior. Come and see this.
Day in our country, and of course East Africa in general. We are going to have the big debate today. CS Ukuriatani is going to be giving us those figures that is going to be guiding us in the next 1 year, that is the financial year 2021-2022, and he will be heading to Parliament in the afternoon with his ambitious, as they call it, the biggest budget ever, standing at 3.63 trillion shillings. And how that is going to be funded, how that is going to work, is a matter of wait and see later on in the afternoon, how it's going to be dissected, who are the gainers, who are the losers, and how the money is going to be found. All right, so with me in studio, I have one gentleman, CPA David Kingo, who is an internal auditor and an experienced, he's experienced consultant, and is going to help us to, delve deeper into the issue of this debate today. It's all over, and how your shilling is going, how the CS is going to get that shilling that is going to help you get all the projects moving. David, thank you for coming.
Thanks a lot.
You're welcome. And it's a big day, more so in the country, with the biggest budget ever 3.63 trillion shillings.
Yes.
Does this worry you?
Of course, it worries me because the budget has been increasing over time. Of course, we cannot have a budget that's lesser than the previous financial year. Of course, it keeps on growing. Then the most unfortunate thing is the status of the economy for this particular financial year. It has not been like this before. So before there could be increase in budgets, but of course the economy has grown. But this one currently, the economy has not grown as expected. It has stagnated, and then the budget was already grown. So whatever is being projected is already high. So there will be a challenge in terms of actualizing the expenditure that will be set up by the CS.
You said the economy has grown.
The economy has stagnated for this one. Exactly.
And that has a very big dent on Wanjiku.
Yes, of course. Of course, the same Wanjiku who paid tax for the last financial year, the same Wanjiku is going to pay tax for this financial year. Then the same businesses that paid tax for the last financial year are even lesser number of businesses that will pay tax for this financial year. So it is going to be a very aggressive budget in terms of revenue collection, because the collection points where the government gets revenue from has really decreased because of the COVID-19 pandemic and the economic instability that we have seen around, the effect of previously from interest capping where people are not getting finance. So a lot of businesses have come down, and even from corporate, SME, individual. So basically it will be aggressive, and Wanjiku will be in pain for this one, for sure.
In terms of how the CAS is about to spread the budget, SMEs, who are the biggest contributors into the economy, you've correctly put it, actually have reduced because of the COVID-19.
Yes.
So it means that the CAS has to be a bit creative on how the money is going to be achieved.
So of course it's going to be, that's why you've seen the conversation of introducing tax like turnover tax, because this is tax even before you might be realizing losses, but the government is already taxing you. So those are avenues of aggressive taxation, whereby they are trying to increase the tax base as much as possible. They want to introduce different points of taxation throughout the supply chain. So by the time you bring something from wherever abroad, or you do value addition in this country, by the time it means the consumer. So there are so many points in between of taxation. That's what we call aggressive taxation, where the government is trying to create different points in the supply chain to ensure that they get income from wherever position they can. And then we've seen them, it's frustrating for them to come back even to turnover tax before even we realize profit. So of course there are those challenges that they're going to introduce because of aggressive taxing, because of the whatever has affected the SME. And remember, the SME are quite a big chunk of taxpayers in this country.
What's the ripple effect?
So the ripple effect is basically what we would call in books crowding out effect, because once you tax the private sector more, of course you pinch them in their profit line. Of course they try to condense. People will close jobs. You look at the aggregate. We might be having someone who was doing farming in the village, so they buy pesticides or whatever input from these particular shops and this particular distributor who have been taxed, so they subsequently increase their cost. So the cost of production for that particular farmer is high. This farmer was giving sukuma wiki to a mama boga in the village. So this mama boga will not be able to realize the margin that they were realizing by buying from this particular farmer. So that particular mama boga has closed. So you look at aggregate, how many mama bogas will have closed? That's what we call the ripple out effect, or the crowding out effect. So it is specific to individual. But when you look at the entire economy, of course, it has an effect, a big one.
And of course, we have, the biggest contributors. We have got tourism and hotel industry, which actually is so much affected because of the COVID-19 and the pandemics. Most of the parks are closed. Is there a way the government can actually tap in to make sure that these kind of industries are revived?
So the only way to revive these industries is because there was a conversation about having aggregators. And what aggregators is where you put hoteliers together. And it might be by region, by whatever geographical setup or whatever economic setup. So you're able to have a single discussion with them on how to improve their business. You can have a channel of grants whereby you support these particular institutions. You can have a conversation on whatever we're having about COVID-19, on the measures that they can employ to beat COVID-19 or still operate in a setup of COVID-19. So when you aggregate them in a certain geographical area, for example, they are able to supervise each other and ensure they have COVID-19 measures, and they are able to do business in the same environment. But we cannot have one point of conversation that is trying to control in Nairobi, that is trying to control an hotel in Turkana. And imagine Turkana is breaking COVID-19 rules.
That's not decentralization.
But if we, for example, we had an aggregation of hoteliers in Turkana, they're able to supervise themselves and ensure they operate in that particular environment. That is the only way now there will be business for the government to tax. Yes.
What does the common mwananchi have to understand about this budget? Mtu anasema tu, this is the biggest budget. It's mind-boggling. But probably you can just break it down for that common mwananchi to understand how that money is being used, and it's not this 3.63 trillion shillings as a block.
Yes.
How it's going to be achieved, and some of the gainers and the losers.
So what happens in terms of budget and understanding, like the example I used before over Mama Mboga? So we are all part of the supply chain. We are all part of the production unit in this economy in one way or the other.
Yes.
So what happens when the government raises a budget? The government aims at creating incentives for positive incentives for people to do business. So for example, they will make roads, and when the roads are done, so cost of transporting goods to the consumption point is reduced. So it reduces the cost of living. That way someone is able to do business. So when the budget increases and subsequently the economy is down, of course it trickles down to higher cost of production, higher cost of living to the individual. So what we expect in real sense, it's whereby someone goes into a shopping with 1,000. The ability of that 1,000, the purchasing power of that 1,000 2 years ago is extremely different from the purchasing power of that 1,000 today. And it is going to be different by the time we hit next year. So that is the individual impact of that particular budget.
That sounds so harsh to the taxpayer.
Yes, of course. Because when you go into a supermarket or even a retail shop in the village, if it is a shop, or for example, just give an example, for this particular newspaper, the shop in the village has bought this newspaper from the same media house. The supermarket in Nairobi has bought the same newspaper from the same media house here in Nairobi. So we all shop at the same shop despite our status in the economy. So if you go into the village with the 1,000, the purchasing power of that 1,000, the same as the purchasing power of that 1,000 in Nairobi. So the impact cuts across. So the village person or the local mwananchi will still feel the impact because the cost of producing this particular paper has increased. The cost of producing a kiberiti, for example, has increased. So the purchasing power of that 1,000 reduces. Fuel has increased. So to transport a van or whichever mode of transport of a set of kiberiti from the manufacturer to the village used to be 5,000, for example. It is 2,000 now, for example, because of cost of fuel. And the cost of fuel is meant to fund the government expenditure, and that is budget. So the cost of living for that person in the village has extremely changed, and that is the impact that we are saying it is individual.
So the common mwananchi should just get ready for all these changes, whichever way it goes.
Yes, of course.
Absolutely.
Yes.
The budget deficit stands at 1.56 trillion shillings.
Yes.
From the total of, from last year it was 2.4 trillion.
Yes.
And now it's 3.63.
Yes.
What causes this big, huge deficit?
What really causes this dip is about ability of the revenue authority to collect as much as possible. Number two, it also results from economic stagnation and when the key avenues of the economy have not grown. Because I will give you an example, a real example. So when we have a setup of Mama Mbogas, for example, allow me to use this example.
Go ahead, yes.
That have grown in a specific village. They are not tax paying. They ought to be paying taxes, but there is no structure for that particular person to pay taxes. When we have someone who has started a small company, an SME here in Nairobi, they are subject to paying taxes. So it means as long as the revenue authority does not have a structure
to collect taxes,
from these particular specific businesses that have grown due to good incentives by the government to do business in the country, then of course we'll come to face this deficit. Number three, The way the government projected last year, it is not what has happened. Whatever they projected to collect, of course, they have not been able to collect. So the project that they were set, they have not been able to finish. So these specific projects, of course, have to roll over to the next financial year. And remember, in that particular next financial year, there will still be new project. So of course, all along the economy has to grow, the expenditure has to grow, and then the benefit grows. Because the expenditure is moving, the revenue collection points are not moving.
Yes.
Yes. They are just trying to walk around the same setups and creating different tax all along.
Yes. Earlier on, as we were starting this conversation, you said that the economy has stagnated.
Yes.
What do you mean by that?
So I mean, like, it's a concept that we are able, when you use the common language, an economic growth is felt by ease of doing business.
Yes.
And the cost of living in a country. So when, for example, just want to give you, we've had conversations where the county government are not able to pay suppliers, for example. It's a conversation that is there. Government entities sometimes are not paying suppliers. This money, if it moved to these particular suppliers, they could have grown or developed new business. That is economic growth. When you measure the unit of growth in terms of new businesses that have been established in the country, it is zero. It is, of course, a negative. So in that layman's sense, we can say the economy has stagnated, or else the economy has not grown. And when you go into statistics of measuring economic growth, we used to project a 4 something growth in the economy. It has stagnated to around 4.1 up to around 4.4 units. So it has not literally grown, and inflation is there. So when you come again to measure the economy has stagnated, the purchasing power that I used to, for example, of 1,000, not able to buy what it could buy 2 years ago, it is literally inflation. And when inflation increases, of course, the economy has stagnated, or it's coming down. Because this 1,000 could do more than one thing.
Yes.
As long as it can do less than it could do before, then the economy is not going anywhere. Yes.
Is there hope for the common mwananchi, who is the taxpayer, that at some point we'll get a reprieve?
There is some hope based on of course, the hoping point is how the government makes its strategies. If the government is able to look at the status of the economy, what is paining people most? It is individual business growth. And number two, having money in people's pocket. So what the only hope that can be there is the government doing a budget that is geared toward money supply in the economy, pushing as much as they can projects that will put money in people's pocket. There are ways that the government can put money in people's pocket, of course not like giving handouts. That way, they're able to put as much as possible pressure for people to do to do individual businesses and to create better incentives for people to grow businesses. That is the only way we might hope. Number two is looking at the production units of this economy. Where does our economy lie on? Which are our main anchors on economic growth? If it is agriculture, can we get subsidies on agricultural products? That's the only way we will have reprieve on this economy.
Kerry, so far, chances are, has not met the target.
Yes, of course.
And they have that work cut out for them.
Yes.
In this coming financial year, what is the projection on the KRA side?
So they're talking about 1.8, I see they're talking about 1.8 trillion on ordinary revenue through more taxation. But of course, I don't see it being feasible based on the situations where between May and June, it's like 30 days in between. So I don't know how the 30 days will change from being able to collect 1.8 trillion that you could not collect before. So I don't see KRA doing any magic and unable to collect that, not unless they change the way they collect taxes. I just want to give you an example. For us as professionals, we also face challenges in terms of handling iTax. The person in the village is supposed to pay through iTax. So we would like KRA to have measures that ensure the ease of what we call canons of taxation, the ease and ability to pay taxes should be as simple as sending money to a person through mobile transfers. That way they'll be able to collect taxes. But based on their canons of taxation, they should be able to understand which is this canon that we are not obeying, that is making us not able to collect, because Kenyans are literally willing to pay taxes. So the ability to collect and the avenues to collect is what might be the challenge. Yes. So of course the tax the people might be willing, but the revenue authority need to evaluate their canons, which one is this that we are not
in the past 1 year, David, there was a serious uproar that the government overborrowed.
Yes.
And that is why the common mwananchi may understand that the government now trying to raise the taxes, raise the budget so that we can pay the debt.
Yes.
Is that the situation?
So of course we need to pay these taxes, and there was a conversation that the way we borrow these loans in terms of foreign currencies, of course it gets expensive, because once the economy comes down, of course the foreign exchange is to our disadvantage.
Exactly.
So the amount that we keep on paying, the value keeps on changing. Number two, when we get this money, where do we invest? That's also another conversation. There's something we call economic survey of a project before you implement. So when you bring up a project, and that should be funded, for example, by borrowing, that project should be able to have a material effect in terms of multiply effect, in terms of creating new businesses around it, and be able to trigger many sectors of the economy. So if the amount of money that we borrow, we are not able to use effectively to trigger economic growth and put in projects that have higher multiply effect, then the cost of paying these particular facilities will keep on hitting us. Then borrowing is, as long as we not meet our revenue, our revenue, ordinary revenue collection, of course we now move to external borrowing, and it comes with a cost. And the government must run its businesses.
Exactly.
Of course. Healthcare has become one of the most expensive the items in terms of the government expenditure. So of course we expect a lot into that. And if we cannot fund, if we cannot collect money to fund health, of course there will be taxation. If the money that we have, we've used on roads, and we need money to fund healthcare, the government has to go around and get money from elsewhere. Borrowing is not wrong for an economic growth. The issue is the framework of borrowing. That is zeros from where we borrow from, how we borrow, which currency are we using, where are we putting this money, which is the repayment plan, all that.
And even now, some of the MPs are saying that, you know, some of the ministries that were given the projects and their projects have stalled should not be given any, you know, budget raise. How is this going to be achieved? Because they say, you know, we need money to finish all these projects.
Of course, the dump of the rule is that once we get money to do a project, of course, it depends with the funding, the financial proposal of that particular project. Because the confusion would be, we've started a project, and of course, by the time we started this project, we had a proposal on table with a financial plan. This is how it's going to be funded. So at whatever point we are not able to complete this project, one scenario might be there, that they have not received this money that they expected to receive to complete this project as per the financial plan. So if that is not received, of course it moves to the next financial year, then they ought to be funded. But if they got the money and misappropriated, then of course they don't deserve to be given. Then what ails the economy is, you want to construct a road, and the project was 10 kilometers, and the 10 kilometers was to generate other 10,000 businesses. You do 3 kilometers, the money is over, and we are moving to the next budget. You don't construct the rest 7 kilometers. So these 3 kilometers that you did has gone to a waste. So those concepts should not be in this country or in this economy. We do project halfway. You do a dam, you bring the caterpillars, you trench halfway, and you go.
They disappear.
So when the rain comes, it is flood in that area, and that part could have been used for farming. It is no longer being for you. It's already an EMA issue. It's a hazard. So they ought to be completed. So when they start something, let them complete, so that we complete, and next time we have a different conversation. Yes.
Okay. So let's take a break, and when we come back, I'd like us to talk about who are the main gainers and who are projected to be the losers in this. People have always been saying that, you know, hey, mkate, you know, this and that. Is it likely to go up or down? That is something that we are yet to see in the afternoon, and of course we have to talk about it. And we have got David Kingo, who is still here with me in studio. Let's just get to understand what this budget is all about, okay? We'll be right back after this break. Stay around.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shwani yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio ununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Is your mind thinking what my mind is thinking?
Maybe this trash of a school is finally closing. Will you wipe that spark of a smile out of your face? Is that something to be happy about?
Now guys, I want us to write down the craziest, not the craziest, the most impossible day I would want someone to do.
Ah, my guys, go anywhere, Paul. But this thing is very, very important. I got to go.
Madam, what's the hurry for? You mean you don't want to fall in love? Now I'm the only way I can quench your thirst.
I do not have any thirst. Thank you.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
And welcome back. We are still going on with the debate on how the budget is going to be read today and how it affects you as a common mwananchi. And with me in studio, I have got CPA David Kingo, who is an internal auditor and a consultant. We're just trying to get to know what are some of the tidbits and some of the secrets that we need to understand about this whole budget. That, as it stands at 3.63 trillion shillings for the financial year 2021-2022. David, before we went on a break, the question that somebody is asking is, how is the whole budget in simpler terms? Who are going to be the losers and the gainers in this, according to your own projection?
So basically, the most losers will be, maybe there'll be an inch on terms of how much we allocate to the county government, even though it is within the law. But maybe we'll see the government try to put as much as they can on their table.
According to the projections,
so,
around 410 billion shillings.
So of course there will be some pinch on that side. The other side that definitely we expect to get a pinch, maybe even the hospitality industry might not get as much as we expect, because based on if we pump money there and because of COVID issue they are not able to pick up, of course, will be a loss. So we might be facing a challenge there. Number three, we might face an issue on even on manufacturing. We might not get as much as we can, because we've seen the motive of the president is about infrastructural development. So we might see him going to advantage of in terms of infrastructure and physical framework, what we call the physical policy of the government. So basically infrastructure maybe get a benefit of the current budget, but then we've some sectors in the economy are going to be at an advantage based on we might not fund much because we might not expect much based on the situation that we are in. Yes, of course, security will get some big chunk because of the situation that we are in terms of security status. Yes,
the executive, the judiciary, and parliament. What have you? Can we excuse the government or the budget itself? Can we excuse the government and blame it on the COVID-19 now that the country was not able to meet the revenue collection for the financial year 2020-2021?
We would really want to have that blame shift in that way. But before COVID, of course, we had some economic issues. Remember the interest rate capping, growth in external borrowing, internal borrowing, and complaints. So supply chain disrupted, where we would see containers being held at some dry ports. So that was there before COVID. And maybe COVID worsened the situation. And if the COVID was not there...
We can blame it on COVID.
So we will not blame as much on COVID, but we would say the COVID triggered more to that side. But of course, we were in a decline situation even before.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you hope that the government, in terms of internal borrowing, the country... the government the country borrows more money daily internally to service to make the operations running and what have you. Is this a situation that we are likely to see?
So of course internal borrowing is not the best because it has very much negative impact to the economy. Just to give a literary example, when they float a treasury bill and bond, so then the government says we need money. This money, for example, if an investment bank institution, where they had options on the table. One is private equity. Private equity, I mean, like, for example, with supermarkets or maybe institutions that they would like to borrow some large amount of money. So we have this investment bank that is focusing on private equity and treasury bills and bonds. So if they put money on private equity, these are private corporates.
Yes.
So these corporates will create employment and they generate some income back there.
Yeah.
So if this money is put in the treasury bills and bonds, it goes to the government. The government goes to build roads. So at the expense of if this money was put in private equity.
Yes.
So number two, if a commercial banks want to give an individual, and this is specific to individual economic growth.
Yeah.
If you walk into a commercial bank in your hometown and you want a loan, then they know the probability of you defaulting is high. There is an officer who's serving you in that particular branch. All that cost to lend to one person. And so many people aggregated. But if they took this money to the national government treasury bills, and it would be secure, it will not be defaulted, there will not be anyone to manage that loan in case of default, because there will be no default. So all this money that should have been given in amounts of 10,000, 5,000, it has been accumulated together and taken to the government. So all these people who should have borrowed this money to go and start a new business, they have not been able to do it because the money went where? To the national government.
To the national government.
That is the effect of internal borrowing.
Let me give you a role today.
Yes.
A magic performer.
Yes.
What do you think is now running through the mind of CS Ukuriatan?
I think it's about after reading the budget.
Yes.
How will he feel? How will Kenyans feel? Is there hope or no hope? The nightmare is, yes, I've read the budget. Will I fund this budget? Yes. That is now the biggest issue. Exactly, that is what is running on his mind. After I read the budget, what will be the feeling of Kenyans? Of course, the feeling of Kenyans, it's a civic consciousness issue. They're able to appreciate where we are going forward as a government.
Yes.
The number two, now it comes to his table. The county government will be on his neck.
Yes.
All the arms of government will be on his neck. They want this money to be disbursed. It will come from where? That is the biggest issue. Yes.
And of course, the county governments, you've talked about the county governments, they've had this back and forth with national government, the treasury, the pending bills and what have you. In a situation where the counties are saying, we have got devolved kind of functions, we have health, we have got and what have you.
Yes.
In this kind of a situation, are we likely to see the county governments having to enjoy a bit of some fair share in this budget come the next phase?
So of course, no, you're not going to get a fair share because of the nature of discipline that they have shown in terms of using what they have been given, and in terms of even the supplier complaints and such and such. So it's not going to be that good for the government. We expect it to be a bit rough as an austerity measures.
Yeah.
Of course, the CS can come with a statement that we are going to have a budget that's going to have an austerity measure. You remember a budget that was read some times back, and even reduced the capacity of vehicle that government officials was to use. That was an austerity budget.
Yes.
So you might expect the same in this particular one. And austerity measures may be geared toward the county government in terms of them giving them discipline on revenue utilization and collection, of course, from their end. Yes.
The country at this particular point, so to speak, is doing badly in terms of revenue collection. So is it going to be a position of Peter, take from Peter and pay Paul?
Of course, we might have... There's a situation that we usually say,
yes,
that in the professional world, some organizations might not be Ponzi scheme. Ponzi is where you pick from one person and you give the other.
Yes.
But by accident or the nature of the economy, they find themselves in
why by accident?
Yeah. So they are not able to create revenue.
Yes.
Of course, you see, the next person should be paid based on revenue that we generate. So they are not able, so they have to go direct now.
Yeah.
So they skip the middle part by accident, nature of the business environment. So you don't want a government that operates that way.
Yeah.
Yes. Of course, it will be more or less like that. But where the government will come up with new measures to trigger the economy and even opening up this lockdown and saying, let us go into full operation.
Yeah.
Then we fund healthcare, so that we are able to absorb all these issues of healthcare, but let the economy run. That's a measure that can really relieve the CS from that pressure and avoid the Peter and Paul conversation.
And that could be that could bring, you know, the whole idea of government flexing the issues of lockdowns and opening, you know, things like tourism and hotel industry and importation. That, you know, many businesses have been hurting over over 1 year because of importation. You put it that you know, you go to Mombasa, you find that containers are all stuck there. They're not cleared and what have you. Is this a situation now the government should just sit back and say, hey, look, we have to do something. You know, we have to raise this money. Yeah.
Of course, they'll have that conversation, but the concept of we cannot have a budget last year that we implemented on an economy that was operating full board. Then this financial year, we increase that budget and base it on an economy that is operating at 60%. Yes, no, it has to change. So they have to find ways that we can operate at 100% and solve the issue of healthcare.
Yes.
It is like saying there are no roads entirely in this country, for example. So movement is not allowed. Yes. So we have to face the issue of healthcare head on. So that it is the only issue that is holding the other sectors of the economy. So if healthcare was sorted, we would be able to have this lockdown out. So of course they look into that setup in terms of what is this healthcare that is really struggling there. So we might lose a lot instead of funding entirely healthcare and open the rest.
All right.
Yes.
Being that is the Mwananchi who is going to, you know, to fund this budget. Right now we are joined by our reporter who is also my colleague here, Doreen. We are yet to get to know, get that. Once we get that, we'll also cross over to Doreen. This budget is Mwananchi budget.
Yes.
What is this simple thing that common person on the ground should understand on simple terms?
So in a layman's language, I'll say expect higher cost of living in terms of the amount that you earned, what it could, the way of living in terms of cost, it is going to change, of course, going to increase. That is the layman's way to put it down. That if you want 10,000, the same 10,000 will not be the same 10,000 in terms of value the next financial year. That is the concept. If your business was giving you an income of 7,000, the next financial year, you either push it to 10,000 or the 7,000 value goes to 4,000. That's the basic concept. Yes.
Okay. And the issue of, you know, treasury bills, we have got things to do with the Euro bonds. How do they affect the current budget as we speak?
Of course they affect because we're supposed to pay. There might be bills and bonds that are maturing that needs to be paid. Then they might be also options of collecting from the commercial banks. Their main target by the government or even individual. So those are not good conversations for the economy. Getting money through treasury bills and bonds crowds out the economy. So the more we hear of them, the more we are worried as economists. Yes, because we know I gave an example here. If a bank has 2 billion shillings to lend, they might take 1 billion to the government through Treasury Bills and Board. Instead of giving this 1 billion to 1 million of Kenyans. Remember, those million of Kenyans will employ many people behind there because of the loan they obtain. They'll have businesses, all that. Internal borrowing is not
It's not the best idea.
This economy.
We have got the Big Four agenda.
Yes.
And, you know, the current parliament's tenure is almost running out.
Yes.
Do you really think we are going to achieve the Big Four agenda?
Not at all. The Big Four agenda has been overrun by time, because when you look at the agriculture, we had Kula, Nakulalu and such, they're not able to pick. We have how many rain seasons to go before we close out. So then we go to manufacturing. You see the president only dealing with the old manufacturing, like KMC and
we just have to just hold on that a bit. Now I'm joined by Doreen Arange, who is already in the streets. And Doreen, if you can hear me, you can just give us a feel on the streets. Doreen, where are you and how is the situation wherever you are? Doreen.
All right, Victor, right now I'm at the G Gardens, just as I promised our viewers that we will be getting Kenya's perspective concerning this year's budget. That is the 2021-2022 budget, which is being termed as the highest budget in Kenya's history. But we'll be doing that when we return. Right now, we want to take a very short break, so stick around to find out what Kenyans feel is concerning this year's budget.
Bwana Motiso, pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shwani yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
My name is George Mwangi. I'm one of the two deputies to Mr. Guvi, our clerk, of course. I'm in charge of the Kasarani Super Special Stage. Kasarani Super Special Stage is a 4.8 kilometer stage, a stage where we'll have two cars going head to head. It is the only stage that you see two cars going head to head. For all our fans, we invite you to Kasarani. Do not miss to be here on the 24th. 14:08 is the kick-off time. Be here.
Welcome back to the program. This is Good Morning Kenya, and just as I had promised you earlier, that right now we'll be speaking to Kenyans to just get their perspective concerning this year's budget. Remember that this is being termed as the highest budget in Kenya's history. And just to run you down through how the past 2 years looks like. In 2019-2020, the budget stood at 1.8 trillion. In 2020-2021, which is this ending financial year, it stood at 2.9 trillion. Now, where we are gearing towards is this 2021-2022, which is standing at 3.66 trillion. And the biggest question is, how will the government perhaps finance this budget, given there's a deficit of 930 billion that needs to be plugged into this budget? And right now, as we speak, at least 1.2 million Kenyans have already lost their jobs. This is as a result of the adverse effects of COVID-19. We have seen the government trying to employ various ways, at least to finance most of our debts. And this is what we call the triple P, the public-private partnership, which is what we've seen perhaps most of government projects having to go through that kind of direction, at least to ensure that they don't have to borrow all together just to finance a project, but engage themselves in what you call the public-private partnership. We have also seen the introduction of the digital tax, again, as a way of just trying to finance most of our debts. But what most people in the private sector especially are waiting to hear is how the question of debt and taxes will be handled. Part of what most Kenyans would say is, how are they going to also handle the issue of taxes, as well as the issue of the cost of living and health, amongst many other issues. But still, even as we talk about all of this and how the financing is going to happen, given that we are talking about the ambitious budget, what exactly is Kenyans' perspective of feel concerning this year's budget, and which areas or sectors specifically do they really want perhaps more money to be injected into, and what exactly are their concerns? That is what we want to get into right this very minute, and I'm joined by a couple of Kenyans, if I can mention, who will be telling us their perspective or their feel concerning 2021-2022 budget. Good morning, Daddy.
Morning to you. My name is Joshua Mutua Waema, the president of Bunge la Mwananchi Social Movement in Kenya, a small-scale businessman running Makueni Electronics and an activist.
All right. From your perspective, we are expecting the CS to read the budget this afternoon before Parliament. What exactly are your expectations as a Kenyan?
Thank you very much. My expectation, first and foremost, especially in view of the COVID-19 pandemic, my expectation from the Cabinet Secretary for Finance, number one, is to ensure all the small-scale business people are given zero rating as far as taxes is concerned. Because you very well know that due to COVID-19, most of the businesses have shut down. And then only very few businesses which are operating for the rich people. So my expectation is that the small-scale business people, mama mboga, kiosk owners, they must be given subsidy by the government so that they can operate within the best environment. Because if that one is not done, we are going to have only very few people in the Republic of Kenya running businesses. For example, most of the restaurants have been almost shut down, and these restaurants employed very many people. So we are calling upon the government to give subsidy to the restaurants so that they can employ more people who lost employment, so that we don't have many poor people against very few rich people.
So your major concern is at least in the reduction of taxes on most of these SMEs?
Okay, obvious, that is point number one on these small-scale businesses. Then the other issue is about transport. You very well know that due to COVID-19 pandemic, transport is very expensive for the people operating from their respective areas to town. Now, I am calling upon the government, despite the fact that we have COVID-19, you see most of the businesses dealing with the transport, they are almost crippling. And these people taken a loan to buy cars. So my appeal to the government is to give subsidy, because, for example, transport industry is very important. Also considering this other factor, you very well know that due to COVID-19 pandemic, most of the people lost their jobs. Yes. But my appeal, the other being, is to the rent concerning rent. You very well know that most of the people are unable to pay rent. And then you find that somebody is being evicted from his or her own place. Also, my appeal is, as far as the so-called landlords are concerned, whom I call house owners, they must reduce the rent in view of the current pandemic. Then the government subsidizes them so that there is no problem. The other thing is about consumer goods. Milk, bread, unga, these commodities I have mentioned, which are the basic consumer commodities for common mwananchi, the taxes for those commodities must be reduced so that everybody in Kenya is able to eat and drink and sleep. But if this one is not done, we are going to have a lot of problems, diseases as a result of malnutrition and so forth and so on. So my appeal, all the consumer goods, unga, sugar, milk, we must have reduction of their prices so that the common mwananchi is able to purchase this thing and satisfy him or her with his or her family. So unless this one is done, where we are heading to now, right now, in view of the current political situation, the country is very fluid politically, and most of the people have been abandoned by the political class, and they are relinquishing in poverty. For example, nobody is addressing the post-COVID-19. Because of the post-COVID, we have a lot of problems. Domestic violence, and diseases, that is mental diseases. Nobody is addressing these things. These things coupled with the current situation, because this budget, which is being read today, must consider the common mwananchi as the main target. What I am saying, those who are salaried, they must be taxed heavily. The other area I want the cabinet secretary, I'm expecting indeed that, is about cigarettes and beers.
Okay.
You very well know these are commodities, although I'm not against those who smoke, those who drink beers, and those who drink wines and spirits. But my appeal to the cabinet secretary for the finance, he must tax cigarettes, wines and spirits, and the beers exorbitantly, because those are leisure commodities. Because now these days you find there are rules that don't open bars, but wines and spirits are selling daily, 24 hours, actually without even restrictions. So I am appealing, and I think the cabinet secretary must have done this. He must tax wines and spirits heavily, beers and cigarettes. And for those who drink and take cigarettes, don't say things that I'm barring you, because willing buyer, willing seller. So what I'm saying again, for equal rationalization, I'm saying this. Also, there must be, I am expecting the cabinet secretary for the finance to have established a kid whereby money can be put with respect or proportionally to what you have, using the principle from each according to each equitably. For example, being a layman, if I put 10 shillings in a basket and my brother puts 1 million shillings in the basket and so forth, we come and share equitably. That is the other thing I expect the cabinet secretary is supposed to have done.
All right, well said, well said. Commodities such as alcohol and cigarettes to be taxed exorbitantly, the budget to follow the form of the bottom up. That is just what he is saying. But how about we speak to another Kenyan? Let's get the various views and the various perspectives of Kenyans concerning this year's budget. Your name and what your expectations are.
My name is Marvin Mwande, and from what I expect from today's budget, you find that many Kenyans lost their jobs, and I expect the cabinet secretary to lower the taxes, also especially the fuel. If he lowers the fuel, you find that the cost of the production will be low. Factories will produce more, they will create more jobs, and the economy will grow also. Also in the education sector, they should increase funding, especially for bursaries. Many people lost their jobs, and if they can access the bursaries, they will be able to pay for their children's fees, and all it will be well, yes.
Again, there's that concern, especially about more monies perhaps being channeled to youth empowerment programs. What is your thinking on that?
I think it is a good idea, yes. The youth may be able to get the loans, but these funds, they should be easily accessible. We find that maybe youths, they usually find challenges when accessing these funds. They should make them easily accessible. They should not favor people from certain sides. Yeah.
Okay. Fair enough and well said. I mean, clearly you can just speak from what Kenyans are really thinking and saying, is that the issue of taxes, just like what the people in the private sector were saying, it's not missing in this conversation. But how about we get one last perspective, try to hear what he has to say, what his expectations are concerning this 2021-2022 budget. Oyugi, good morning, and what is your expectation?
Thank you. My name is Oyugi. I'm one of the human rights activists in this great nation. Today is a nice day. Tuko na budget ambayo tunasomewa na waziri wa fedha Ukuru ya 10. Sisi kama wananchi wa kawaida, our big expectation ni ya kwamba serikali tumeona wameanza miradi mbalimbali kama kujenga barabara, na tungependa sisi wa Kenya pesa ziwekwe katika hizo miradi ndio zikamilike, kama hiyo barabara inaitwa Lapset hii ya kwenda Southern Sudan. Tunaomba serikali waweze kuchukua pesa kukamilisha hizo miradi ndio zibaki pending. Upande mwingine tumeona food production ya Kenya imerudi chini, na tulikuwa tunaomba kama inawezekana ile pesa ambaye tumeona imewekwa katika food production about 53 billion, ambaye tunaona ni pesa kidogo sana kulingana na uchumi ya nchi ya Kenya sahii. Tunaomba iongezwe kama inawezekana ndio Wakenya waweze kukuwa na chakula. Upande mwingine, upande wa usalama, tunaona salary ya walinda usalama si mzuri sana. Tungependa serikali waangalie wafanyakazi wa usalama waweze kuongeza pesa, na vile vile upande wa elimu tumeona ile pesa wamewekewa ni kidogo kulingana na ile kazi ya walimu wanafanya. Kama ingewezekana wangeongezwa pia kitu. Na vile vile tumeona hii maneno ya county governments, ile allocation ya ile pesa wamepewa, tunaona itakuwa kidogo sana. Kwa hivyo ndio ziweze kufanya kazi bila shida yoyote, serikali ya Kenya ingeangalia kuwaongeza kila county pesa ambaye wataweza kutumia kujenga uchumi yao. Ya mwisho tunaongea upande wa hospitali. Kulingana na wakati hii ya COVID-19 kuna shida mingi watu wanapata, tofauti hata na watu wameshikwa na COVID-19. Tunapata wagonjwa ni wengi wako kwa nyumba, wamekosa matibabu kwa sababu ya ukosefu wa madaktari katika mahospitalini. Tunaomba serikali ya Kenya waweze kuongeza madaktari. Kuna vijana wamesoma na waweze kuongeza pesa ambayo watawalipwa ndio Wakenya wasiendelee kuteseka kulingana na afya yao. Na hayo tunamwambia rais aweze kutilia manani kwa hizo maombi yetu, na sisi wa Kenya tuna hakika kila kitu itaenda mzuri. Asanteni.
Asante sana. Well, Victor, that is just what Kenyans are saying right now here on ground concerning this year's budget. You can clearly just speak from what a good number of Kenyans are saying is that they really want it to take that bottom-up kind of form whereby more money is channeled towards things that really affect Kenyans. Key among them, issue to do with taxes has not missed in this conversation, the healthcare system. And when it comes to taxes, just like what they've mentioned, is at least that needs to be looked into, at least reduce on the cost of living. Good number of them also saying that in terms of jobs that have been lost, quite a number of them, which makes also this Kenyans not to perhaps live, that kind of life that they would want to live. So this is what they're saying right now. But we'll continue to pick more views from Kenyans, try to hear their different perspective, what it is they're really expecting the government, the CS to address in this year's budget, and also that issue of financing. We want to really pick from what Kenyans are thinking in regards to how the government is planning to finance this year's budget. Victor.
A feel and the views of Mwananchi. Remember, it is the Mwananchi who is going to get into the pocket and fit the bill, and of course pay taxes so that you can get all the operations up and running. Thank you, Doreen. And of course, later on in the afternoon, we'll still be joining our reporters across the country. They are also stationed just to give us what is happening in different parts of the country. All right, so with me here with David, let's just wrap it up at this particular point with this discussion. So the big day is here, and we are yet to get that ambitious kind of budget. what is your last word as we wind up?
So my last word, and as we discussed, is the question of the future of external borrowing in this country. So we're really going into that, and I guess even the literally way of borrowing, you borrow to do something that after you're done, you repay your loan, then you move into normal life without borrowing as much as that. So the biggest question, the future of external borrowing in this country and what cost is bringing to us the economy. We might be growing, but all what we generate, a percentage of it goes into paying these particular loans. So if all what we're paying this particular loan is being channeled back to the economy, if we did not have these loans, of course we would be in a better position. Anyway, this is the Kenyan conversation that I really want to have. If we do infrastructural development, we close out, then the economy will be in a better position. So if it means external borrowing to do infrastructural development and other major developments in this country, that we close out that chapter and move to a next phase, then we'll be in a good position. But then these resources must be used effectively and efficiently for the purpose that they are borrowed.
Yes.
So that we don't move this cost always financial year after the other one to the local mwananchi. Yes.
Can you give hope to the mwananchi who is about to get into his pocket again for the next 1 year to foot this budget?
Yes, of course there is hope, because as we said before, if the budget concept about money supply and moving as much money from the centralized government to individual consumptions and to having projects. I'll give you examples of budget that were aimed at circulation of money in the economy, a budget that had kazi kwa vijana. We've seen all those projects, but they are now done in a different way, in a better way. With projects going down to the local government administration in terms of even the county, we call them the county directors or whatever, this county administrative officers. So those particular projects will help push money to the people's pocket. That way, there is hope.
There is hope. Okay. I think that is a good way to, that's a hopeful point to leave it at that. Thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, David Kingo. That is David Kingo, who is an internal auditor and who is also a consultant who has just been helping us to talk about the issues of budget and what we should expect in the coming hours, that is in the afternoon. All right. So in the next few minutes, we'll also be joined by Laikipia Governor, that is Deritu Murithi, to also talk to us on matters budget. Remember, he sits in he's the chair of Finance and Planning and Economic Affairs in the Council of Governors, and he's also better place to help us talk about matters finance, matters planning, and economy in terms of our counties, as far as our counties are concerned. Let's take a break. We'll be right back after this.
Next on
Mara ya mwisho ulikuwa na Nancy ilikuwa wapi?
I know they'll be coming for me soon.
Sichukue ndege moja uende South Africa ukajifishage huko.
I have built too much here in Kenya to just walk away.
Kusikiliza King Tiffany walikuwa na pena na Eriko hapa nje nikasido.
Nani alikuwa amekutuma? Wayu ni kuongea ukweli. Tuongee kwa sasa nani alikuwa amekutuma? Wewe mlikuwa mnapea nini? Na nani? Sina Tiffany. Mbona? Nataka nijue kama niko kasi.
Kama you can leave. I'm sure Wayuni will fill you in.
Oh.
Maji mimi hata niliashaga obea na udaku. Siku hizi mimi nikiongelezwa na mtu kitu inaisiaga hapo hapo.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Seme, will you marry me?
Chatian is your son, and he always will be. What if he goes down the wrong road like you? You wouldn't be bothered to stop him?
Let's break up.
Fine, suit yourself.
I wish you the best.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, uwekezaji katika sekta ya kilimo unaendelea kuisaidia nchi hii kuafikia malengo yake ya uzalishaji chakula cha kutosha. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
serikali walipokuja kuintroduce kazi ya visima, tukakuwa nafuu kwa sababu hata mifugo wetu wamepata maji. Tukarudi tena tukaintroduciwa kazi ya ukulima na maji.
Mimi nimekuja nimefanya kazi hapa shambani kwa sababu mmetusaidia nipate pesa, mtoto arudi shuleni kwa sababu nimefaidika kwa hizi mashamba.
Wenzetu wametuletea elimu, kumbe ardhi inaweza toa hata ng'ombe mingi kushinda hata ile tulikuwa tunafuga.
Alhamisi saa 2:30 jioni kwenye runinga ya KBC Channel 1.
This ordinary day, something extraordinary is about to happen.
The water horse is said to be the rarest of all creatures. There can be only one in the world at a time.
It's some creature with horns!
Crusoe? How'd you grow so fast? Where's Angus?
You wouldn't believe me if I told you. The Water Horse, Legend of the Deep.
Next on.
Mara ya mwisho ulikuwa na Nancy ilikuwa wapi?
I know they'll be coming for me soon.
Sichukue ndege moja uende South Africa ukajifishage huko.
I have built too much here in Kenya to just walk away.
Kusikiliza Kenya Tiffany walikuwa napiana na Eriko hapa nje nikasindo.
Nani kama mtuma? Wayu ni kuongea ukweli tu ukweli. Sasa nani alikuwa amekutuma? Wewe. Mlikuwa mnapiana nini? Na nani? Sina Tiffany. Mbona? Nataka nijue kama niko kasi.
Someone you can live. I'm sure Wayuni will feel in.
Oh.
Maji mimi hata niliashaga obea na udaku. Siku hizi mimi nikiongeleshwa na mtu kitu inaisiaga hapo hapo.
Next on.
Kuna nipatai kabisa.
Wewe ngoja usifie hata kujisifu mwenyewe.
Wanisifu kitambo. Wewe ushana mimi nikikaa hapa bila kupata wateja. Wewe Aisha. Sasa ukimba hivyo ndio maisha nini?
Si nafanya mazoezi lakini huu mchanga huu.
Mazoezi ya nini? Mazoezi gani?
Si ile kazi niliyopata sinaanza mwezi ujao.
Nini inaendelea? Wewe Sudi, ni mambo gani haya?
Sudi ni nani?
Sudi ni mimi. Hata nguo zangu unavaa. Basi. Chao. Who is the boss here? Ni wewe. Then who is this?
This weekend on KBC Channel 1.
Is your mind thinking what my mind is thinking?
Maybe this trash of a school is finally closing. Will you wipe that smug of a smile out of your face? Is that something to be happy about?
Now guys, I want us to write down the craziest, not the craziest, the most impossible day you would want someone to do.
My guys, when you are pole, but this thing is very, very important. I got to go.
Madam, what's the hurry for? Eh? You mean you don't want to fall in love? Eh? You know I'm the only way I can quench your thirst.
I do not have any thirst. Thank you.
Classmates, every Saturday on KBC.
Next on.
Mimi kwanza nina kizunguzungu niweke tu chai kwanza.
Kizunguzungu ishindwe hapa tuzi kizunguzungu. Ngoja kidogo mwanaume. Kaa hapo. Ngoja nikusavu hata kama ndazi ngapi?
Zote zote.
Ati zote. Leteni pesa kwanza. Mtoe pesa kwanza.
Zote. Unajua sisi na kina nani? Natuuliza hiyo swali. Haya. Kacheni hapo. Unataka tu tunarudi hapa kwa mara ngapi?
leo ndio nilikuwa najaribu yani.
Unajaribu nini? Ongea haraka.
Hebu ongea haraka. Nilikuwa najaribu leo ya mwisho.
Kaa chini. Ni mara ngapi tutakuwa tunakuja tunakuambia ufunge biashara yako hapa? Kaa chini.
Kaa chini madam.
Huo ni ungwana.
You've not missed a match, all right? We have to still continue with this discussion. Matters budget, which is set to be read today in the afternoon by CS for Treasury, that is Ukur Yatani, to give us his budget, how he's going to get the money so that all the operations in the country can get up and running. All right, let's just stretch this discussion a little bit and now talk to Governor Ndiritu Muriithi, who is the governor of Laikipia County, who also chairs the Finance, Planning and Economic Affairs in the Council of Governors. Governor, first of all, good morning and good to see you all the way from Laikipia County. Good morning.
Good morning. Very good to be here, and thank you very much. I look forward to our conversation.
Absolutely. Let's start it off, Governor. What is the expectation from where you sit? Today is a big day, and we expect the CS to give us his ambitious budget of 3.63 trillion shillings. What is the expectation?
Well, first of all, you know, these days the budget is an open book.
Yes.
So that the figures are already known.
So in a sense, we already know what the minister is focused on.
Mm-hmm.
For example, let me start with the devolution. You know, obviously, that
the money is going to counties is 370 billion in equitable share.
Mm-hmm.
And 40 billion in conditional and non-conditional grants, totaling 410. So that's already known. The amount that you pointed out of the national government expenditure as well as national institutions, the 6 trillion.
Mm-hmm.
You already know that. About 2.5 trillion is recurrent expenditure.
Yes.
Of which about 1.3 trillion is for repaying debt, and about 1.1 trillion in recurrent expenditure, and approximately, I think, 700 or so billion in development expenditure. So the numbers are already known, and the budget books everybody can download them from the Treasury website, and that's a good thing because, you know, when we were children, budget making was this big secret that was done somewhere in the Treasury.
Yeah,
and that's why we all waited for the budget speech, or our parents were all waiting for the budget speech, and the budget speech would start saying things like from midnight to night. This is so. With the reforms of the Constitution of Kenya 2010, budget making involves all of us. So the only thing I can comment on is on the national budget. I think we certainly are already disappointed. And I mean, I want to be quite candid here and say that as an economist, I had rather expected this budget to have a stimulus orientation, but it has not done so. What would why? Let me start with why, and then what would it have been?
Yes.
The why is like this. CS ambassador, governor, Yatani, you know, he was an ambassador and he was also governor in the last session. He would know, and he has been saying often, that the reason he is late in disbursements, and he's late in disbursements to counties, he's late, he has a big pile of pending bills. That's why you are hearing MPs saying maybe the Treasury should float a special bond to use to pay their pending bills. So, what is his main issue? His main issue is that tax collection is sluggish. It is depressed. Why is tax collection sluggish? It is sluggish because economic activity is depressed. And economic activity is depressed in large measure because of COVID. Because remember, we ourselves as Kenya, we've had to literally close the economy about twice when we have these major lockdowns. That has also been the case in our global markets. So for instance, we are not getting tourists and things like that. So how will tax revenue increase if economic activity is not increasing? So we as economists had expected this budget to infuse, to try and stimulate and excite economic activity so that, you know, people have money in their pocket so that tax revenues are increasing. Unfortunately, he has not done so. The only thing he has done is to attempt to fund the large ticket items. And that's really unfortunate because it means that for the next 12 months, he is going to continue to struggle with tax collection. It will remain sluggish, which means he will continue to be unable to meet his tax targets, which means disbursements will continue to be a problem.
Yes. Okay. The governor, the county government was planning for 370 billion shillings. That is the equitable share. How is the progress so far? Now that from these estimates, the county government is set to get 410 billion shillings in the next financial year.
No, counties are budgeting and have been budgeting for the entire 410.
Yes.
Because again, remember the budgeting cycle, Victor. The division of revenue is already settled. That is how we know that equitable share is 370 billion.
Yes.
The conditional grants are also already known. That is how we know the conditional grants are 40 billion. So total 410. And
yes.
Each county has therefore cast and
yes.
We already know, although the CARA is not concluded, no, it was concluded last week actually. We already know what is in the CARA, meaning how much of the 370, how much is going to Laikipia, how much is going to Mombasa, how much is going to Kirinyaga, like that. What is not concluded, although the figures are known, there is a new act, which is the County Governments or County Grants Act, which will go alongside the CARA. That has not been concluded, but the numbers are known.
Yes.
So counties have been budgeting that way. But I feel like the question you're asking is this: even if you have a budget, and this budget is not funded, or the disbursements don't come, then really the budget is not very helpful. Now, right now, some counties have not received their monies for equitable share for March, for April, for March. And no county, all counties have not received equitable share for April, for May, and for June. And as I said, for 27 counties, more than half the counties, they have not received their equitable share for March, meaning we are 4 months behind. And that's a terrible situation to be in, because that means pending bills are piling. That means service delivery is really suffering, and so on.
Yes.
And those are the things we had hoped or expected the CS to be able to address.
How have you handled, now that the pending bills are here, the equitable share? Some of the counties have, as you've correctly put it, have not received for several months now, and we are crossing over to the next financial year. How is this going to affect the operations in the counties, Governor?
It has really affected operations in the counties. I think you've seen in at least 2 or 3 counties, for example, health personnel threatening to go on strike, or because of delayed salaries and so on. Basically, service delivery is really, really hampered by this delay in disbursements. And not just service delivery, economic activity, because this is what happens, Victor.
Yes.
If you let's say if you are a contractor and you've done work for the city of Nairobi, or for Laikipia for that matter, and the county has no cash flow to pay you, it means you yourself, you cannot pay your workers, you cannot pay your suppliers, which means that they in turn cannot pay their workers and they cannot pay their suppliers. So the economy constricts, the economy stalls.
Yes.
And unfortunately, that's actually what is happening, because the national government itself has big pending bills. All counties, because of delayed disbursements, are not able to pay their pending bills, which means that economic activity throughout the Republic has stagnated. So when you hear people complaining, even these whole things like this whole hustler narrative, the point is that people are saying the truth. They don't have money in their pocket.
Yes.
And if people don't have money in their pocket and food on their table, even the best highway may not be of help.
Right.
And this is where the disconnect is coming.
The question here is that has the counties been able to raise their revenue collections to operationalize all the projects in the counties?
Well, Victor, the own source revenue, the taxes that we collect within counties on our own behalf, that number has itself been a bit depressed because of the issues of COVID and so on. A few counties have been able to grow revenue, but obviously some counties have been very hard hit. If you look at our colleagues in Narok, because tourism is all but stopped and a lot of their revenue is dependent on tourism, they have really struggled this year because there is simply no tourism activity. A few have been lucky, like ourselves in Laikipia. So if you look at month on month, we are about almost 10% higher. No, we are 20-something% higher this year than we were last year. But those are few and in between. The counties that have been able to collect more this financial year than the previous one. So I would say that when you look at county budgets, more than 70% of county budgets are financed from equitable share.
Yes.
So although we are raising our own money, more than 70% of our budget is financed through the equitable share. And that is the share that is 3-4 months delayed. Yes. And that, Victor, sorry.
In that one, okay. Governor, the counties are set to get 410 billion shillings in the next financial year. Is that enough to help you push for the projects in the counties from where you sit?
Well, it is certainly higher. That is the highest that has gone to counties so far. However, you should not celebrate yet, Victor. You shouldn't. Because it is a number on a budget. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. Already, I'm telling you, of the three, it was actually 310. Of the 310 billion from last financial year, we have not received it for more than 4 months. Yeah. It looks like we will end up crossing the year, the financial year, with Treasury not having disbursed monies to counties, which is first of all against the law and against the Constitution. So, although the number promised to counties has increased, the real issue is in the disbursements. The proof of the pudding is in the eating.
In the eating. Governor, most of the county governments have been accused of misuse of funds. I don't know, what's your take on that?
First of all, I am quite sure, I don't know, Kimwarel, Arodam, Kemsa, I'm sure all of those are not in the county, they're not county functions.
Not really.
The money lost were not in the county budget. When you look at, for example, the audit of the monies used at COVID, the real issues are with the national government. Yeah, and every county has been audited. There was a special audit for the use of COVID funds.
Yes.
And except for minor issues, most counties' audits were quite up to standard. So this question of misuse is a red herring. It's a smoke screen used to try and discredit counties and justify. It is used to justify these delays in disbursing to counties. Where there has been an issue, that issue should be investigated, and if people are found culpable, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law. And remember, we as counties, we have 2 levels of oversight. The immediate level of oversight is our county assemblies. The second level of oversight is the Senate. So for instance, when my county, when we were audited for use of COVID funds, we have appeared in the Senate. We have also appeared before our own county assembly.
Yes.
And both houses has found that we used these monies appropriately.
Right.
I doubt that the national government can say the same. So it's a smokescreen, Victor. My view, my theory is that the smokescreen is usually used to justify the delay in disbursements.
All right. Now this one is a personal question. As an economist, what do you think and how do you think CS Ukuri-Yatani is going to, after reading the budget, how is it going to make sure that this money is availed and or just put it readily available to help the government run all the projects? That is the 3.63 trillion shillings.
Honestly, as an economist, I fail to see how he will do it because, as I've told, by the way, the signs are already there and you can tell them, Victor. Ask yourself, since independence, we have never read the budget before we release the economic survey. Because the economic survey is data about how is the economy performing right now and for the last 12 months. Now, they have not released the economic survey. That should really worry you. It does certainly worries me as an economist. It says that perhaps the numbers are so depressed, they know that if they release them, the credibility of the budget will be not there. So it's a very worrisome sign that he is going to read the budget statement before the economic survey has been released. So he's shooting in the dark. Or maybe he has the numbers, but certainly the public and the business people and all of us, we don't have it, so we'll be shooting in the dark. As I explained in the beginning of the program, when you have depressed economic activity, the number one thing that government needs to do is to stimulate the economy.
Yes.
And you saw that very, very effectively. You will recall when President Uhuru was first appointed finance minister by President Kibaki. His number one budget, his first budget, was a stimulus budget.
Yes.
And that allowed the economy to bounce back to around 7% growth. You know?
Yes.
So what I honestly, looking at the way the budget has been framed, there is no effort whatsoever to stimulate economic activity or to and therefore get the economy out of recession. So I'm not sure how CS Ukur expects to have growth in taxes. I don't know how he expects to achieve it.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. These are now goes to, of course, now to your county. Your latest strategy aims at growing your county from 100 billion shillings to 400 billion shillings. That is fourfold. How are you going to achieve this, Governor?
And we are already achieving it. We should tell you that.
Wow, that's some good news there.
It is good news. If you look back in the period of devolution, at 2013, 2014, the economy of the county was 38 billion. Right now, we are in fact around 106, 107 billion per year in GDP.
What's the secret? What's the secret, Governor, that maybe your colleagues can borrow from you? From 36 to 100 and something billion, that's an exponential kind of growth.
By the way, we are not the fastest growing. I think we are number 2. Elgeyo Marakwet is ahead of us. Now, the gains have come from gains in agriculture. Like, for example, in Laikipia, you will see more than a tripling, increasing by 3 times, the area under irrigated agriculture, particularly smallholders. And of course, when you do irrigation, then you get more crops, more seasons and so on.
Yes.
Or more crops per year. So the productivity of agriculture has gone up. It is also about prudent management of the economy. If you look at our business register, since I have been governor 3.5 years ago, our business register has grown from 14,000 businesses to 23,000 businesses. Almost double.
Yes.
The number of persons employed in those businesses has in fact doubled from 23,000 to just over 40,000. We are very, very focused on promoting small manufacturing.
Yes.
You'll be quite intrigued to know that here in Laikipia we have, for example, the folks in Nyahururu who build, who produce the tuk-tuk. We have young men producing small drones. We have young men and women producing beauty products. We have producing dryers. So we are very strong on promoting small manufacturing. For instance, as we speak right now, we have an economic stimulus package that involves partnership with commercial banks. So if you are a small business in Laikipia, if you are a small business registered or having a business license in Laikipia, you have access to working capital at 7.5%. Yes, that's what I said, 7.5%. As your interest you're paying on your working capital. Compare that to what you have to pay if you are in some other places of 12 and 13%.
Yes.
So that's how to make businesses competitive, is to support them. And to also make sure that government is really responsive to their needs, and to continue to make it easier for that economy to grow. Laikipia, of course, is also very strategically positioned because we are the main gateway to northern Kenya and to southern Ethiopia. So if you're going to Isiolo, if you're going to Samburu, if you're going to parts of Turkana, if you're going to Marsabit, if you're going to Wajir, if you're going to Mandera, if you're going to southern Ethiopia, Laikipia is your gateway. That's why, for example, you are hearing the discussions about containerized cargo destined for Ethiopia coming by railway to Nanyuki and then getting on the very fantastic highway from Nanyuki to Moyale at the boundary of Ethiopia. It is also a very good distribution center or logistics center for the Mount Kenya region.
Yes.
So if you're taking goods to Meru, to Tharaka Nithi, in fact, even to parts of Baringo, Samburu, definitely, then again, Nanyuki is a fantastic, or Laikipia is a fantastic place to work from. That's why right at the moment, we host one of the larger distribution depots for petroleum products. So all those things are the ones that have made us be able to move forward. But as you rightly pointed out, our ambition is in the immediate term to be able to go to 400 billion per year. Now, how will we do so? We have a full agenda, but allow me for time's sake to point out just four.
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah. Number one is to continue support to manufacturing, particularly small manufacturing enterprises. And we'll be looking to support them with more with working capital, but also with manufacturing loans and other access to capital. We expect to focus, if you look at our budget this year, on irrigated agriculture. That is why, and we are already achieving some good success. If you look at the Suli Water Project, if you look at Kenamba Water on the western side of Laikipia, if you look at the Makurian Water Project, if you look at the Kariunga, Muitirithi, and Naibo irrigation scheme, all these are water or irrigation projects that will increase the acreage under irrigation and therefore improve agricultural productivity. We are also focused on assisting businesses to be formal. So again, we are targeting to grow the business register from around 24,000 to about 35,000 businesses.
Yes.
Also, we continue with our efforts for feedlots to increase productivity of livestock. And you will see this, it is the main purpose of the Makurian Osirua water project that is going to bring water to more than 4,000 households, mainly in Mukogodo East, but also partly in Mukogodo West. So all these measures are designed and to be able to push our economy towards 400 billion per year in GDP. Victor.
Okay, Governor, because we are stuck of time, let me just ask you this one as you wind up. What is the expectation to the counties? Of course, as far as the budget is concerned, is just a matter of a few hours for us to get that report from the CS Ukur Yatani.
I would urge all of us as counties to pay some attention to stimulating their economies. We already have you working with KIPRA. We support from UNDP and other players.
Yes.
In fact, these instruments were launched by the president many months ago. Recall when the president was launching the construction of the Ugatuzi Towers or G47 towers.
Yes.
One of the things we did was to launch post-COVID or recovery strategies, which focused on what counties can do to stimulate local economic production in their respective counties. And I would urge that counties certainly include that in their budgets, because the figures are known: 370 billion in equitable share and 40 billion in conditional grants. I would also urge counties, particularly within the economic blocks, to consider specific support to small business by lowering the distribution cost. Let me explain in under a minute.
Sure.
And this is under discussion and within certainly my economic block. If you are a producer in Nanyuki, let's say you make yogurt in Nanyuki, and of course you already pay single business permit in Laikipia. When you go to Narumoro, which is in Nyeri, at the moment you will pay, of course, a single business permit for that side.
Yes.
And we're in discussions with my colleague in Nyeri to remove that, so that if you are a registered business in Nyeri, you should be able to trade in Laikipia without us asking you for an additional permit. And vice versa. If you are a business registered in Laikipia, you should not have to pay for an additional license when you get to Nyeri. So these things are in the works, and that's what I would urge my colleagues in the other counties to do, so that we put money in people's pockets. And the truth is, right now, the reality is that the economic activity is sluggish and people don't have money in their pockets. We need to do more to put more money in people's pockets. I thank you.
All right. I think, Governor, you've painted a beautiful picture about Laikipia County. That makes somebody to just take the next trip to Laikipia County and just explore how Laikipia County for as a gateway. All right.
Karibu sana Laikipia. There are amazing places to visit and to see.
Yes.
Not just in Nanyuki, Rumuruti, Nyaururu, Kimanjo, Doldo, Kirimon, Ronyek. Amazing places to visit. Many hidden gems to take a weekend off and relax with family and friends.
Absolutely.
There is the fun train that comes on Friday afternoons, passenger train.
Yes.
It's quite a nice experience, riding through the very scenic countryside. Karibu sana Laikipia.
Okay. I think as Good Morning Kenya, we will make a trip to Laikipia County, and if we come knocking, please open for us. Thank you, Governor. Thank you so much for talking to us. That is Governor Ndiritu Murithi, who is the governor of Laikipia County, who is also the chair of Finance and Planning and Economic Affairs in the Council of Governors, talking to us matters budget and matters counties and what we should expect in the coming hours and, of course, coming days. Governor, thank you so much for your time. And, of course, you as a viewer, we call it a wrap. At this particular point, you've been watching Good Morning Kenya on KBC Channel 1. We appreciate your valued company from 7 a.m. until this particular point. It's time to say goodbye. Thank you for watching. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Seme, will you marry me?
Jiatian is your son, and he always will be. What if he goes down the wrong road like you? You wouldn't be bothered to stop him?
Let's break up.
Fine, suit yourself.
I wish you the best.
Tonight on KBC Channel 1.
Chini ya uongozi wa Rais Uhuru Kenyatta, uwekezaji katika sekta ya kilimo unaendelea kuisaidia nchi hii kuafikia malengo yake ya uzalishaji chakula cha kutosha. Wiki hii kwenye Project 254,
serikali walipokuja kuintroduce kazi ya visima, tukakuwa nafuu kwa sababu hata mifugo wetu wamepata maji. Tukarudi tena tukaintroduciwa kazi ya ukulima na maji.
Mimi nimekuja nimefanya kazi hapa shambani kwa sababu mmetusaidia nipate pesa, mtoto arudi shuleni kwa sababu nimefaidika kwa hizi mashamba.
Wenzetu wametuletea
the ultimate prize, the dream of Kenya amateur and professional golfers, a prize that has eluded them since the inception of the Kenya Open Golf Championship, which went on to become an event of the European Best Challenger Tour. But one Kenyan nearly broke that jinx in 1998 when he lost in sudden death playoffs to Ricardo Gonzalez of Argentina. Jacob Okello, who came closer to becoming the first Kenyan to win that prestigious title, recalls that vividly.
When you're playing golf, you're all in your zone. You know, if you're prepared mentally to know that even if whatever happens, that I can give myself an extra 2 hours of concentration. You're prepared for 4 days of playing. Mentally, you're prepared for 4 days of playing, but you're not prepared for that extra 1 hour or 2 hours. You know, after the last hole you've holed out, that's when you realize, holy shit, I'm going for playoff. Your mind is not set up for that. So now you start struggling. Again, you start feeling, hey, I'm tired. I wasn't prepared for this. So you start having all the negative thinking. That's what happens when you're on playoff. It affects you. People don't show it. Emotions doesn't show in front of people. Emotion shows when you're in that little bedroom of yours by yourself. Then you sit there, the reality hits you. You know what? If you had won the Open, so many things would have changed. Your life would have changed. Now you haven't won. It's a problem. Now, all of a sudden, after that, we keep on trying harder and harder and harder to win, and it gets worse and worse and worse. With years coming by, I decided, no. The only way is to try and enjoy it, You don't try and force things at all.
It was an agonizing loss, but he had to move on.
I realized what I went out to do, and I achieved my goal. I literally achieved all my goal, and I was happy about it.
What is your goal?
Now, my goal was to be my learning process there, whereby once I've come from Europe, I came back where I said I needed to try and train guys also to be golfers, and also so that we get many Kenyans out there to play.
Jacob Okello has nevertheless enjoyed an illustrious career as a professional golfer, despite that blot.
Initially, when you're younger, it was about the money. The older you start getting, and the more experience you start getting, we were born in Kenya, then we moved to, then he got a job in Kampala. He used to manage the Kampala Golf Club, my dad. And that is where we started, and we used to live on the golf course. Me, I just said, no, let me just take it up. And you never know where it gets you to. For me, it was like supporting my dad. Every time he played, we could go there, I could ask for, can I come and watch you play? And that is when I got in and I started playing.
He could have become a hotelier like his dad or a footballer like most of his classmates, but he chose golf instead. Why?
played football, played all the other sports, played even swimming and we played all those sports. But you know, you look at it and said, okay, it's a team sport. An individual who works very hard and an individual who doesn't work very hard, you are all put in the same basket. But with golf, when you're working very hard, you are on your own basket. It's all about you. If you don't play well, you don't have time. You'll be playing, you won't be able to win tournaments. When I finished my high school and started doing college, and my dad was like going to catering, because we used the Block Hotel, because my dad used to work also for Block Hotel, and he took me to courses for the Block Hotel. And those courses were like, you know, to be a chef, try to be a cook and everything, to being an hotelier. Being an hotelier's father, we always looking at your father being an hotelier. I wanted to be like him, but I wanted to be better, being an hotelier. So we did all the courses for hotel. Then I went to UK, and I was playing golf. I was still playing golf then.
He had his moments as an amateur where he got his breakthrough too.
96, I played golf. 86, 87, it was 85, 86, 87, I played as an amateur. 88, then 1990, I started playing a lot of events, local events, the Golf of the Year events. My very big break started in 1991. When my handicap was I was handicapped to 1, and then I went to scratch, and I started winning events, national countrywide, the Golf of the Year events. 92, 92, 91, I won a few events. 93, I just missed qualifying to go to represent Kenya. 92, 91, I missed qualifying to represent Kenya. 92, I represented Kenya. 92, 93, 94, 95, 96. Then I was the #1 player from 92. The best moment was an amateur was when I won. I think I'm one of the few professionals. I won the amateur category in Kenya Open. It was in 97. 95, before I turned pro, I won the best amateur. I was the leading amateur in Kenya Open. And that's when things turned. Then that's when people started, when people started telling you can make it as a professional, just look for good sponsors and everything. And that's where it all started. 98, when Kenya Open came, I'd already gone to West Africa. We played 5 events in West Africa, playing very well consistently because we were working hard with the coach and everything. And the other thing I really have to thank my coach then, but apart from my dad, was Charles Farah, who really coached me a lot to get me to the level where I to becoming the leading player then. In 98, it was my lucky year where I led from January until when Kenya Open. Then from 98 onwards until 2002, I played a lot of events in Europe and South Africa. They were tough days, very tough. You could walk to a place where you are the only black guy around, and you are the dark one, and everybody would be like, "And who are you? Are you a golfer? Are you a caddy or a golfer?" I said, "You tell them you are a golfer. Are you from South Africa?" He said, "No, I'm from Kenya." They don't say Kenya, they say Kenya. I said, "From Kenya, yes." And it was very, very tough, and you are alone. You learn to be one person, learn to walk by yourself. You play with them, even if you play with the guys, the three ball you've played with, they all don't bother. Once you finish on the hole number 18, they think thank you very much, and they go and sit amongst themselves. So you have to learn to be by you. The only person you might be able to talk to is either the waiter and the barman to serve you. That's it, and then life continues. You learn to do that. And
what were his strong points that made him a cut above the rest?
My strong point on golf was I used to hit it far and straight, and I never used to miss the greens a lot. Yeah, so that's what really, my long game is very good. So my short game is a little bit not that great, but I used to work hard on my short game, but my long game and towards the approach game were good. That's what really made me to what I am now.
The long hitter has been managing the golf park where is the residence a pro, and thus the only pay and play public golf course along Nairobi's Ngong Road, which is used as a training ground while issuing handicaps through its loyalty membership program.
At least For the last 10 years, I can be proud saying that we've produced more than 3,000 golfers as golf park. More than 3,000 golfers to 5,000 golfers we've produced. Like if you go to most clubs now, most of the captains of the clubs or the committee members of the club started their golf here at Golf Park 10 years ago, within the 10 years we've been here. Yeah, that's my proudest moment, was I know I've given back to people, to the society, by trying to create as many golfers as we can and hoping that one day one of them will be a champion. Golf Park, we always have a CSR. We try and promote the underprivileged and see if they have talent, to try and push them and get it. Like most caddies who have been playing from Golf Park, they have made it to the national team. Some of them have turned professional and they are really enjoying their life. I'm happy, I'm glad that I changed their lifestyle. Anybody can play golf. As long as we have another extra public golf course, we'll be fine. We want to promote it with schools because they promote football in schools and everything. We need to also to try and introduce golf into schools.
My name is Abdul Sidi. I'm proud to be associated with Safari Rally, and I'm also very happy to be at KBC, which is the official channel for the WRC event, returning to Kenya after 19 years. It's fantastic. Good luck to KBC. Do a good job and let the spectators enjoy. Personally, I've enjoyed rallying at the top level. Nobody taught me how to navigate or drive. Done rallying over 25 years. Now I retired in 2010. I've become a mwalimu, an instructor, and I'm training students in. I've got students in Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Burundi, and I teach for free. I've got over 60 students in Kenya who are rallying. Among the leading, I'm very proud because before it was Sylvia King, Untitled, and there was no African lady. But now you've got Lynette Uko, Tuta Myonki, Ellen Shiri. These are all my students. They have really learned from where I started teaching, and currently I'm off because of COVID. We've just prayed COVID dies out, and in the Safari Rally itself, I've got over 500 students who are marshalling. They're all my students. The Chief Safety Officer in the Safari, Norris Ngalo, is my student. We should be proud of having got to the Safari back after 19 years, and we should thank President Uhuru Kenyatta, CS Amina Mohamed. They have put lots and lots of work, and it couldn't have been done without the serious efforts of people like Phineas Kimathi, Jim Kamura. There is a team there, but Phineas has put lots of work there. Phineas is the CEO of the Safari Rally, and with President Uhuru Kenyatta, CS, they've been combining efforts. And when the president of a country is dealing with the president of FIA, that has got lots of force. No other country in the world is known for that. The president of FIA may go to a country, is not even greeted by any of the leaders there. But here, President Uhuru Kenyatta makes an effort to invite Jim Todd to his State House and all that. It shows how serious the government is. As Kenyans, we should be proud because it promotes our country, it promotes tourism, hotel bookings are full, tourism, people come and see wildlife and all that. The economy also improves a lot, it helps the government. And there is all good reason for the government to get involved, knowing that this is where we are also going to gain. This is not just for the rally drivers or navigators or marshals or Abdul Sidi to gain directly. It is for the entire country.
Bwana Motiso,
Pikipiki yako ndio hii. Uko shwani yangu. Hii pikipiki ni unakumbuka uniekelea the lowest unique bid yako ilikuwa ngapi? 18 shillings. Na unajua kuendesha hii gari? Kidogo. Haya, kitoko yako shika helmet, kifungu yako chomoka na mali yako.
Kujiunga na QuickBid ni rahisi. Enda kwenye M-Pesa, bonyeza paybill kisha weka business number 4032353. Kwenye account weka kodi ya bidhaa unayotaka na bidi yako ya chini zaidi. Kwa mfano TV 16. Kisha weka shilingi 20 tu kama idadi yako. Weka bidi yako pia kwenye www.quickbid.co.ke. Kumbuka, bidi ya chini zaidi ya kipekee ndio hununua. QuickBid, bidhaa bora kwa bei ya chini.
Kupata skiza tune hii, sala ya imani na matumaini, dial *811 *815 #.
Sala ya imani. Mungu wangu na sadiki maneno yote linalosadiki na linalofundisha kanisa Katoliki la Roma, kwani ndiwe uliofundisha hayo, wala haudanganyiki wala haudanganyi. Amina. Sala ya matumaini.
Ili kupata skiza tune hiyo ya sala ya imani na matumaini, dial *811 *815 *811 *815 #.
The greatest rally in the world is back in Kenya. Catch all the action of WRC Safari Rally live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1 from 24th to 27th June. See the world's best drivers navigate their machines on Kenya's rough terrain at breakneck speeds. Experience the thrills, adrenaline, drama and excitement as man and machine do battle. Don't miss out. WRC Safari Rally, live and exclusive on KBC Channel 1, your true sports partner.
Good morning. My name is Irene Mchuma Odem. It's the 10th of June, 2021, budget day for Kenya and also for a section of countries in the East African community which has a tradition of reading out their budget during this same period. The national government of Kenya will be reading out its budget today at 2:30 p.m. at Parliament Buildings, where we're expecting Finance Minister Ukur Yatani to make his way from Finance Ministry, that is the Treasury Buildings, to Parliament Buildings to read out the budget for legislators and also invited guests at the Parliament Buildings. And my colleagues are on standby in various parts of the country. In the county of Kisumu, we have Achola Simon. In the county of Mombasa, we have Junei Karisa. O'Brien Kimani is at the Parliament Buildings. Regina Manyara is at the Strathmore University, where she'll be taking us through an in-depth analysis. She'll be bringing on board tax experts and economists on the expectations of the 2021-2022 budget. Remember, this year's budget is coming at a time many Kenyans are crying foul over the increased cost of living, which they attribute to what would be attributed with the high cost of fuel in the country. The Energy Regulatory Authority has been increasing cost of fuel from month to the next, and this has trickled down the pain of the pump at the common mwananchi, with many Kenyans asking the national government to exempt tax on essential commodities and increase tax on non-essential commodities. They're saying the issues of transportation from one location to the other seem to be the reason why the cost of living has escalated, and thus they want commodities such as cooking oil and also fuel to be reduced, and this will be able to accommodate each and every Kenyan. Right now, my colleague Achola Simon in the county of Kisumu is on standby, as well as my colleague in the county of Mombasa, Junei Karisa. They are both on standby, and right now we are going live to the county of Kisumu. Achola, good morning. What do you have for us from the county of Kisumu?
Well, good morning to you, Irene Mchuma. As you've rightly put it, we are actually in Kisumu County, right? The CBD, of course, will be sampling views from the ordinary members of the public, but also one sector that has actually been hit hard by COVID-19 for the last 1 year or so is the business sector. And of course, we'll be talking to the chair of National Chambers of Commerce and Industry from this region. Will actually be putting us into perspective of exactly what they will be expecting from the budget today. But also my colleague will also have some time, my colleague Wycliffe Okech will be having some time later with members of the public, so that then he can actually sample some of the views in terms of expectation from members of the public from this part of the country. Back to you, Irene.
Achola Simon reporting live from the county of Kisumu, and as he mentions that earlier on, Achola Simon reporting live from the county of Kisumu, and as he mentioned, he's also having Wycliffe Okech, my other colleague, on standby in other parts of Kisumu. And right now we are crossing over to the county of Mombasa. Junei Karisa, how are you this morning from the county of Mombasa? I understand many Kenyans would want the essential commodities to be exempted from tax as the national government intends to read the 2021-2022 budget. What do you have for us on the ground, Junei? Good morning.
Good morning, Irene Mchuma. Of course, we're coming to you live from Mombasa, where, according to the Kenya Federation of Employers, 1.
Our apologies on that technical hitch. We'll be getting back to Junei Karisa later on in this bulletin as we prepare to hear from Ukuri Atani, who is the man of the day. He will be walking out of the Treasury buildings at around 2 p.m. and he will be making his way to Parliament buildings, where he'll be reading out the 2021-2022 budget, with Kenyans' expectations very high now that the cost of living has been affecting the common man. And this is a picture that we are seeing in various parts of the country. We have our correspondents in various parts of the country who are being able to go around and find out what the common man wants to hear from the national government this afternoon. And my colleague Achola Simon earlier on engaged us, and he said that he will be bringing on board an expert to bring us the picture of the expectations of the 2021-2022 budget. And also remember, Regina Manyara is at the Strathmore University, and she will be engaging experts on tax and also economists as they paint the picture on the expectations of the 2021-2022 budget. As I mentioned earlier, this year's budget comes at a time that many Kenyans would want to know what the government has placed in store for them. There was an incident where a section of Kenyans in the county of Kiambu, they were complaining about their trading business. They would be able to transport their goods to the market from their farms at an expensive cost, but by the time they get to the market, they are not able to make the profit. And even there are those who are not able to get the money they have used on the transportation to the location, and they are calling on the government to see what they can do to make each and every Kenyan comfortable in this pandemic time where the country is also coming to terms with the COVID-19 pandemic, one that affected highly the tourism industry. The hospitality sector had to lay off close to 1 million people, and this affected the hospitality sector. My colleague Achola Simon says he's ready with an expert in the county of Kisumu. Let's cross over and also hear from him before we get back to the studio. Achola?
Thank you very much, Irene. Indeed, it's a sunny day here in Kisumu County. And of course, the faces of the locals here are actually bright. This is, of course, buoyed by what has been happening in this region for the last 1 year or so, despite the fact, of course, this is one of the counties that has actually been hit hard by COVID-19 pandemic. So, Irene, as I had earlier indicated, that we will actually be talking to the business community, but also we'll be talking to the